D. Wei Ling, have you had enough? I don't like you at all. That was the first sentence anybody said to me in that world. The door had hit the wall hard enough to rattle the water glass on the nightstand, and there was a young man standing in it in a summer shirt, sweating, furious, looking at me like I was a bill he'd been avoiding. Doll, I had been alive in that body for about 4 seconds. Let me be precise about that, because it matters. 4 seconds earlier, I had been a soul with no address. Now I had a hospital bed, an IV line, burgundy curls stuck to my cheek, and a stomach that felt like somebody had poured lamp oil into it and lit a match. Jin. I also had somebody else's 20 years of memory sitting in my head like a dropped filing cabinet. So I did what you do. I sorted it. Divine sense is the one thing I never lose, no matter what body I fall into. 2 seconds of it and the cabinet was alphabetized. 2 seconds, and I knew exactly who was shouting at me. His name was Zhang Hao. He was my fiancé. He was here to break the engagement. He had fallen in love with Lin Yan, the nanny's daughter, the girl who had walked half a step behind me for 10 years carrying my bag. And the reason I was in this bed at all was that the girl who used to live in this body had found out, gone home, and drunk herself into alcohol poisoning trying to make the feeling stop. It worked. That's how I got the vacancy. I looked at him. My eyes were still sore from crying that wasn't mine. Who was it? I said. That swore he'd marry me and love me for a lifetime. Who proposed the engagement? And who started getting tangled up with another woman while he already had a fiancé? He went dark red. Dap. Can words said in youth be taken seriously? Wei Ling, stop dwelling on it. And this has nothing to do with Yan. It's that I don't like you. Even if you commit suicide, I won't marry you. Cool. Very cool. You didn't like me but you still got engaged, I said. You got engaged? Didn't propose ending it. And instead felt perfectly justified going and finding yourself a mistress. Then you come to my hospital room to explain that the mistress isn't the problem. I am, because I won't let go. Tell me something, Zhang Hao. Where exactly do you get the nerve to raise your voice in here? Do you have any shame at all? He had come in ready for a fight. A screaming fight. The kind where I'd cry, and he'd get to feel like the reasonable one. He hadn't come in ready for arithmetic. I'm so terrible, he sneered, and you're still clinging to me. Who's more shameless? Nobody stays blind for a whole lifetime. The world's big. Who hasn't run into a piece of trash? I took my hand off the call button because I'd pressed it about a minute earlier. Get out. The door filled up with medical staff. I told them this person was seriously disturbing my rest and I never wanted him in my room again. The nurse didn't even blink. Understood, young Miss Wei. I'll put this gentleman on your visitation blacklist. Sir, please leave immediately or I'll call security. You have to understand how good the service is in a VIP ward. Sang Hao went from man having an argument to man being escorted from a building in under 15 seconds, and he had clearly never had that happen in his life. His face went green. Ling, you're really something. Don't you dare beg me to come see you in the future. I looked at him the way you look at something on the bottom of your shoe. He left. And then the room was quiet, and I finally got to do the thing I'd been dying to do since I opened my eyes. I got to be curious, because I want to be honest with you about something. That fight. That was housekeeping. 2 minutes of my time. What I actually cared about was the wallpaper. I had never seen wallpaper like that. Or a chandelier that small and that precise. Or windows that clean. I got out of bed, rubbed my sore stomach until it settled, walked to the glass, and stood there staring at the road in the distance like a farmer at a parade, because it was full of cars, and everyone was driving them. Everyone. In the world I came from, you needed a certain level of cultivation before you were allowed to ride a treasure that flew you around, and learning to do it took a decade. Here they hand you a license. Then I found the phone on the cabinet and listened to voice messages, one after another, and I actually laughed out loud. This world was fun. I'd chosen right. I raised my hand and turned it over in the air, and my mirror came out. 8-sided, plain, about the size of a rice bowl, and older than most of the mountains where I grew up. That's the Cancun mirror, and it is the only thing I own in any world. It's my life-bound treasure. It's also the reason I'm not dead. Here's the short version, and I'm giving you the short version because the long version is 900 years of me making the same mistake over and over. I came up as a demonic cultivator, not a tragic backstory. I just fell into it and it suited me. I spent centuries pointed at one thing, ascension, because that's what you point yourself at. And when I finally went up from my tribulation, the heavenly Tao took one look at what I was and tried to erase me with lightning. The mirror caught my soul on the way out, so I'm lying in a cave somewhere putting myself back together, and I have this thought I'd never let myself have before. Why was I doing that? Those people up in the immortal realm, do you think they cultivate their character up there? Do you think their lives are different from ours? And if they really have no desires left, then congratulations. I just spent 900 years earning the right to sit in a room with a bunch of wooden posts forever. No thank you. The mirror travels 3,000 small worlds. I had a mirror and no more interest in heaven. You do the math. I told the mirror to expand and it went up to my height, floating, and gave me a good look at what I was working with. Long hair like seaweed. Face the color of paper. A body that had been poisoned by its own owner. I tidied the hair and touched the cheek, and I have to tell you, my first real feeling in that world was not rage on her behalf. It was exasperation. The little girl really didn't cherish herself enough, I said. How is loving somebody else better than loving yourself? Though of course, if she'd known how to cherish herself, I wouldn't have had a body to move into. That was the deal. She was already gone when I got there. Souls without cultivation don't hang around. I could have just taken it, and I want to be clear that I could have, but I don't like debt. So I paid. I used what I know to make sure that when she reincarnated, she'd land in a good family, warm house, parents who show up, fair trade. From then on, I was the Wei Ling of that place. And I intended to enjoy every minute of it. Then she said one thing before she went. Not about Song Hao. Not about revenge. She said she hoped I'd be good to her mom and dad. I stayed in that hospital 3 more days, flushing the alcohol out with what little spiritual chi that world had, which was almost none, barely enough to keep a body healthy and pretty. 3 days of learning what a remote control was. And on the 3rd day, her parents pushed 2 board meetings off their calendar to come get me. They had been coming twice a day, both of them, every day. The 3 of us sat in the back of the car, and I leaned on the window watching traffic like a tourist, and Xu Ming said, gratified, Kuei, whatever's making you unhappy, Madam and Patriarch can fix it. Just never ruin your body like that again. Health is the most important thing. You know that? And Liu Jie took my hand and held it in both of hers and said, look how much weight you've lost. What was so serious that you had to drink like that? If he's really bullying you, tell us. You won't let anyone bully you. I have been the most dangerous thing in a room for a very long time. Nobody has ever taken my hand like it was worth something. I want to be careful here because I know how this sounds. I didn't fall apart. I just found the whole thing extremely novel and extremely warm, and I decided on the spot that I liked it and I was keeping it. I put my head on her shoulder. Madam, who hasn't had a stupid week, just pretend I was possessed for a few days. I'm better now, and I'll never make you worry like that again. Really better? Really? Going to the hospital scared me. How many years does a person even get? I still have so much I haven't done. I'm not ruining myself over some inexplicable person. Then I sat up and smiled at both of them and said, don't worry, I'm going to be happy from now on. And anyone who tries to make me unhappy, I'll make sure they never get to be happy again. They laughed. They also heard it. Xu Ming got serious. Xiaoling, tell Patriarch what that brat did. Patriarch will settle it for you. Patriarch, you underestimate me. I raised an eyebrow. Do I really need to run home and have my father step in? Handling someone like Sang Hao is child's play. Bringing you into it would be using an ox cleaver to kill a chicken. Then I told them what I actually wanted. I do have one thing. I want to fire someone. They looked at each other. Who? Wang Hui. That's Lin Yan's mother. 10 years in our house. She's worked for us a long time, I said. And I think it's been long enough that she's forgotten which side of the room she stands on. She thinks she's half the master of the Zhou family. I want her gone. Severance exactly according to the law. Not 1 extra cent. Liu Jie thought about it. Wang Wei does put on airs with the other staff. But she's respectful to us. Xiaoling, is this connected to what happened to you? More or less. Her daughter has been challenging me everywhere, not just trying to stomp me into the mud, trying to take my fiancé. My mother's face went cold so fast it was almost impressive. How dare she? And Zhang Hao is a scoundrel too. The second we get home, she's out, both of them. And Patriarch nodded and said, do whatever you want about all of it. Just go home, rest, play for a few days, then go back to school. Stop being angry at people. They worked out in about 4 seconds that Lin Yan and Zhang Hao and I were all at the same university, which meant the previous owner of this body had been eating that humiliation every single day, in public, in the one place she couldn't leave. Their hearts broke. Mine didn't, but I filed it. I linked my arm through my mother's and closed my eyes and thought. So this is what a safety net feels like. Wang Hui was waiting at the front door with a few of the staff when we pulled in, smiling, welcoming me home. But she didn't come close the way she normally would. She called it from 6 meters back. Xiaoling, are you feeling better? I already had Sister Chen make your favorites. Make sure you eat plenty later. Guilt has a smell. I could see it sitting on her face under the smile like a stain under fresh paint. So she knew. Of course she knew. Day. What's being a servant in a wealthy house next to being the mother-in-law of a wealthy heir? No wonder her daughter hadn't held back at school at all. I walked right up to her and looked her over, took in the neat uniform and sighed. Madam Wang, you truly hide your skills well. Her eyes flickered. Xiaoling, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I tilted my head. I've been told I look cute when I do that. How could Madam Wang not understand? Your daughter is about to marry into a wealthy family. In the future, you'll be an elder that Zhang Hao supports. How could you possibly keep toiling away in my house? Her face changed, and then, this is the part I enjoyed. She looked at my parents. She looked at them for permission. That was when she found out. Liu Ji snorted. Wang Hui, The Zhou family has treated you well. 10 years ago you were alone with a child and buried in debt, and I paid it off and let you live in my house. Lin Yan grew up beside Xiaoling. Best schools, beautiful clothes. People outside thought the Zhou family had 2 daughters. Tell me exactly where I wronged you and your daughter so badly that you'd let her do this to mine. Ciao. Wang Hui started to explain. My mother put a hand up and stopped her cold. You don't need to say anything. Pack your things and your daughter's things and leave. If you're still here in 30 minutes, don't blame me for throwing you and your belongings out. And I said gently, you only have 27 minutes left, you know. Half those people had been with the family 10 years. Kind employers, high salary, gifts and bonuses at holidays. And they had fought to get those jobs. And here was Wang Hui, treated better than any of them, who had let her daughter go after the young Mrs. Fiance. Servants have a very fine sense of who broke the rules of the house. I nodded them toward her room. Madame Wang's character is truly unreliable. Go keep an eye on her so nothing goes missing. Yes, young miss. They understood immediately. And they went and stood in her doorway while she packed, because after 10 years her room was full of the family's ornaments and bird's nest from our kitchen. She wasn't exactly stealing, she just stopped noticing the difference. Being watched by those people did more damage than anything I said. She could hear them in the hallway calling her an ungrateful wolf, saying she'd used her master's things, saying the daughter she raised was a green tea witch. Nonsense, she snapped at them. What do any of you know? Aren't you afraid of going to hell for wagging your tongues? They laughed. Genuinely laughed. If you aren't afraid of hell after doing what you did, why should we be? Your daughter's quite capable, though, living like a rich young miss since childhood, and now marrying a rich young master. You really haven't lived this life in vain. That's all thanks to Sister May's good teaching. Mother and daughter cut from the same cloth. One of them checked her watch. Sister May, hurry up. 10 minutes. We should stretch a bit so we don't pull something throwing people and things out later. Don't worry, we're in great shape. Throwing a few things won't tire us. The main thing is not letting certain people offend the young Mrs. Eyes. She knew they'd do it. She stopped arguing and packed faster. She'd already called her daughter, by the way. Nobody picked up. Liu Ji heard the commotion from the staff wing and shook her head, smiling a little. You certainly have your ways. Dear Wang Hui has a very strong sense of face. This is going to be miserable for her. Then she reached over and smoothed my hair and said, but you did the right thing. We don't bully people. We also don't let people bully us. Don't hide things like this from your parents again. No matter what happens, we're always your strongest support. Upstairs. The previous owner's bedroom was pink, princess-styled, and honestly lovely. I liked it a great deal. The only problem was the photograph of her and Zhang Hao on the nightstand, which ruined the entire visual composition of the room. So I tore it up. Then I found an empty box and swept every album and every gift he'd ever given her into it, carried it downstairs and handed it to one of the staff. You'll help me pick out all the photos with Zhang Hao in them, cut them up, throw them away. Everything else was given by that scum, and I don't want it. If any of you want it, take it. Don't want to see it in the villa. They patted their chests and swore not a trace of him would remain. I ran back upstairs very happy, which meant that when Wang Hui pushed her boxes out the front door, the last thing she saw of me was my back going up the stairs cheerful. They put her outside the gate, 7 or 8 boxes on a tree-lined private road with no cars, no people, nothing. She stood there. Then she tried to call a car and discovered she didn't know how. 10 years of riding in Zhou family cars. She sat down under a tree with her boxes and hid behind the trunk so the staff wouldn't see her. She got the call. She cried on the phone with her mother. And then she went to Jing Hao, red-eyed, and said, can you drive me? Yao Ling came home today, and she must hate me so much she threw my mom out. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have fallen for you. Because of me, my mother got thrown out at her age and laughed at. Do you take me? I've let her down. Zhang Hao went off like a firecracker. Wei Ling threw Aunt Hang out. That's why she hasn't come looking for me for 2 days. She was waiting to do this. How utterly unreasonable. What does this have to do with Aunt Hang? Let's go, do. And don't worry, I'll make it clear to her. Lin Yan walked behind him holding his hand and whispered that it was her fault, that she'd betrayed Jieling, that whatever happened to her was deserved, and please don't argue with Jieling, because how would she face people if he did? He squeezed her hand and thought, this girl is 10,000 times more sensible than Wei Ling. Meanwhile, she was doing accounting. She was living in his apartment. She wasn't using contraception. The Yi family would never let a grandson be born illegitimate. Losing the Zhu family didn't matter if you got a child out of it. And her mother was doing her part. Wang Hui had gotten a text and gone right back out into the sun, on purpose, and stood there until she was ready to faint, because people always take the side of the weak. So when Zhang Hao arrived, Wang Hui pretended not to know anything, gasped, young master scooped, pushed her daughter away and demanded to know how she could be so shameless, and raised a hand to strike her. Lin Yan closed her eyes and didn't dodge, just stood there ready to take it. Zhang Hao blocked the hand. Aunt Hong, please don't be upset. I was the one who liked Jaeun. She only agreed because I wouldn't stop. She's been eaten up with guilt. Don't blame her, blame me. Then Wang Hui swayed on her feet and Lin Yan caught her and cried about how hard her mother had worked to raise her, and the two of them got into the car and looked at each other and smiled and squeezed hands, because look how angry he is. It was a good plan, genuinely. Two moving parts. Both women committed, aimed at the exact soft spot in him. Do you want to know what defeated it? I was playing a video game. I had just turned on a console for the first time in my life. The phone rang and I answered it without looking, and a voice started shouting about what right I had to bully Aunt Hong, and how cold-blooded could I be. I glanced at the screen. It said, "Future husband." "Zhang Hao," I said. "Are you looking to die?" He was so stunned by my tone that he actually stopped. Then, "Did drinking ruin your brain? What kind of fit is this? Get lost, scumbag." I hung up, blocked every channel he had, deleted every photo and every message, picked the controller back up, and disappeared into a screen for 9 hours. I have fought things that eat souls. I have been struck by lightning that was aimed at me personally. Nobody warned me that the truly dangerous thing in the modern world is a boss fight with good sound design. Zhang Hao drove that carload of grievance up to my gate, discovered the guards had already been told not to let those three in, and kicked the gate and screamed my name. The Zhou family game room has the best soundproofing in the house. I heard nothing. Not one syllable. I was having the time of my life. The staff heard him, though. By that point they had shredded every photograph with him in it into confetti, and they had gone through his gifts and divided them up among themselves, and they had opinions. So they held a small meeting and decided to vent a little on my behalf. They walked to the gate carrying the goods, had the guard open the small side door used for moving furniture, and set the box down outside. "Young Master Shu," one of them said, perfectly polite. "The young miss is busy playing games and probably won't have time to see you today. Please head back. When she comes out, I'll let her know you were here." He looked down at the box. It was full of shredded photographs, and through the gaps he could see pieces of his own cut-up face. Every picture of the two of them, from childhood to now. Then he looked up and noticed each of them was holding things. Familiar things. What's going on with those? "These are all things the young miss doesn't want anymore, so she gave them to us. But she said she doesn't want to see them again, so we'll leave them at the security post and take them home over the holidays, so they won't be an eyesore for her." And then the last touch, which I did not order and could not have improved on. "Young Master Shu, the people who live around here are all prominent figures. It's best if you don't wait at the entrance. It wouldn't look right if someone saw you. We'll be going inside now, take care." They stacked his gifts at the guard post like trash going out and walked back into the house without looking behind them. He stood there staring at a cardboard box of his own shredded face. He had never in his life been humiliated by staff. Not even staff who were angry. Staff who were bored. He turned around, got in the car, and slammed the door hard enough that Wang Hui and her daughter both jumped and drove off. "The suitcase," Wang Hui cried. "My suitcase, duh. I'll have someone come get it," he said, without looking at either of them. Every ounce of sympathy those two had built that afternoon burned off in about 90 seconds because he couldn't reach me, and they were in the car. I came out of the game room at 8 in the evening. Sister Chen had brought me lunch and told me about the small circus at the gate, and my parents had come by with tiramisu and seen me having fun and left again. I ate a few bites of the tiramisu during a loading screen, decided it was one of the great achievements of this civilization, and then registered that both my parents had skipped overtime to come home and sit near me. I turned the console off and went downstairs. "Patriarch, madam, what's for dinner?" "Make me sweet and sour pork ribs." They looked up from their newspapers, delighted. And I sat down between them and glanced at the pages, which were all business and stocks and completely opaque to me, and got curious in a way that would end up costing a corporation its existence. "Patriarch. Is it hard to run the company?" Su Ming took his glasses off, and I swear the man lit up. "Yaling is interested in the company. It's not hard. Learn a little. It's nothing difficult. If you're willing, come be my assistant and I'll teach you." "If she's coming, she should be my assistant," Liu Ji said instantly. "So we mother and daughter have things to talk about. Yaoling, come to my side, we'll share an office. If you're tired you can rest in the lounge or play games there. If you want to learn, follow me." I looked at the two of them. "Aren't you afraid of spoiling me? That's how you get those useless rich kids." Patriarch waved that off. "How is this spoiling? We taught you every principle you need. You're sensible. Only a family like the Yi family spoils a child rotten. Those two each go their own way and don't know how to raise anyone. And they've taught him to become such a piece of work." Madam shot him a look. Both of them checked my face, still worried about me. "Patriarch, didn't you used to say Zhang Hao was a talented young man?" I was blind then, who knew what he was underneath? Then he set his jaw. "I've already called Zhang Xiong. This engagement is dissolved. That brat isn't worthy of you. Let him go marry some stinky fish, some rotten shrimp." I laughed so hard I had to lean on my mother. Here's the part that Zhang Hao would not understand for another 8 months. The Zhou family and the Yi family had a joint project that was nearly signed. Enormous margins. Patriarch had chosen the Yi family for it out of nothing but the courtesy owed to future in-laws because there was another bidder he liked better and had simply been too polite to take. That bidder was Zhao Corporation, whose president was 25, had taken over from his sick father, hadn't just kept the company from wobbling but pushed it up a level, and was on the cover of every business magazine in the country. Patriarch picked up the phone and moved the project. That was it. That was the whole revenge. One phone call, made by a father in a bad mood, over dinner, before I had done anything at all. Zhang found out his son had fallen for someone else, and the Zhou family wanted out of the engagement. Then he found out the project was gone. He called my father fast. Old Zhang, we've known each other over 10 years. Children arguing, shouldn't escalate into business, should it? Zhang Hao is just in his rebellious phase. He likes yelling more than you know. If he hadn't been demanding to marry her since childhood, would our families have gotten engaged at all? I'll teach him a lesson and make him apologize. Don't be angry anymore. My father snorted. Rebellious phase. Our Xiaoling drank herself into alcohol poisoning out of grief. And where was your son? Living in the same room with that Lin Yan? I wouldn't dare take a son-in-law like that. And my daughter is not somebody anyone gets to bully. There's nothing more to say, I've decided. Old Zhou, spend more time disciplining your son. If you let him keep going, who's going to run your company later? I have a meeting. Goodbye. Zhang Ziong sat in his office suppressing the urge to break something, and then he called his son in. Zhang Hao had been drinking all night in a bar and arrived hungover. The moment he walked through the door, his father threw a cup at him. Do you know how much money you've cost this company? Over $1 billion. Do you know what the Zhou family refusing to work with us means? It means they will never work with us again. Since the Zhou and Hua families merged into Dongfeng Group, they've been well past us. If they decide to suppress us going forward, have you thought about what happens? Zhang Hao sat down across from him, honestly bewildered. He had never touched company business. He was still in the phase of being the handsome one on campus. Patriarch, aren't you exaggerating? When I was little, the Zhou family was weaker than us. If they can develop, why can't we? There are hundreds of corporations. Do we have to work with the Zhou family? You say it easily. What do you know? All you know is playing with the little nanny. He shot to his feet. Can you speak properly? What little nanny? Yan and I are in love. His father laughed at him. In love. Do you think calling her mother madam a few times stops that woman from being a servant of the Zhou family? You think Lin Yan walking behind Zhaoling for 10 years makes her a young miss? The Zhou family was kind and gave those two a place to live. And look what they did with it. People who will put a knife in the Zhou family today will put one in the Yi family tomorrow. And I'm telling you, that girl has her eye on your status and your money. Can you not be so utilitarian? Just because you and madam have no feelings for each other, you think there's no love anywhere in the world. He said it with real contempt. I pursued her. She said no at first. And when she finally said yes, she blamed herself. She said she was sorry to Wei Ling. I forced her into it. She isn't the person you're describing. You're 20 and still this stupid. Get rid of that woman. I don't care what city. I don't care what country. I don't care how much you pay her to settle somewhere. Just make sure Wei Ling never sees her again. Handle it fast. Let the Zhou family see some sincerity, and there might still be a chance at the project. And Zhang Hao said the sentence that ended his family's company. He didn't know that's what he was doing. Nobody ever does. If you like Wei Ling so much, you marry her. Chairman Gio, you're the head of a major group. Are you really going to sell your son's marriage to please the Zhou Corporation? Isn't that a bit beneath you? I'm not having a commercial marriage like you and madam and making an even unhappier family. I will marry the woman I like, and nobody can force me. Do? Then he pushed his chair back and walked out, feeling like a man of principle. What he actually thought, walking out, was that I had found a new tactic. That I'd gone crying to the elders to squeeze him. And the more people pushed, the more he wanted Lin Yan, because that's how he was built. He went to the school to find me. I wasn't there. He drove to the villa. The guard told him I'd gone out. I was at the company, learning how to take meeting minutes. That was my first day. I followed Liu Ji around, met people, and then went and asked the secretary to please explain the most basic reports to me like I was 5, because I was. I pulled the company's own history and read it, founding to merger, every project, and then pulled the data on each project to see how they were actually executed. Divine sense doesn't get tired. I read very fast and I don't take notes, because I don't need to. Everything I look at stays where I put it. Sister Guo called at some point to say Zhang Hao had come by the house and left, when he found I wasn't there. In future, I said, you don't need to tell me about Zhang Hao's affairs, just send him away however you like. I was going to be running Dongfeng Group one day. My head was full of the previous 4 years of margins. Who has time for an ex-fiance? 2 days later, my mother reminded me that I was, technically, a sophomore, and school existed. Now, the previous owner of this body used to go to school in a family car. Very low-key car. Most of her classmates didn't know who she actually was, just that her family had money. Zhang Hao drove a sports car and everyone thought he was the rich one, and a fair number of them thought she was punching above her weight with him. I don't have a low-key setting. There was a car in the garage that Xiuming bought her for her 18th birthday. Fire engine red supercar. She'd barely driven it, because she always walked with Lin Yan or rode with Zhang Hao. I fell in love at first sight. Red is my color, and that car was more beautiful than every flying treasure I have ever owned. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because I have owned some very nice flying treasures. I did a few laps of the villa garden to learn the pedals, and then I drove to school along the absolute outer edge of the traffic laws. I arrived at break. Half the campus was crossing the courtyard, so the car got noticed. The doors went up. I put a pair of 8-centimeter heels on the ground, swapped out of my flats, and got out. My hair was dyed this year's rose gradient, the one the girl groups over in Country H had made famous, and under the sun it outshone jewelry. White v-neck, black trousers. Nothing complicated. And then I walked to the teaching building, because I had English, 2 periods back to back, and I was genuinely looking forward to it. I could hear them behind me. I want to give you the flavor. Isn't that Wei Ling? Didn't someone post she was in the hospital with alcohol poisoning? Rich people get better treatment. Look at that car. How much is that? Could it be compensation from Zhang Hao? Rich kids on TV always write a check as a breakup fee. Anyway, Lin Yan's the impressive one, actually managing to snatch Zhang Hao away. What's impressive? Wei Ling's grades are average, she's in no clubs, and other than being a bit rich and pretty, what presents does she have? Lin Yan's going to be vice president of the student union next semester, ranked to first in her major on the last exam. She dances. She plays piano, she's gentle. If I were Zhang Hao, I'd pick her too. I don't like Lin Yan. No matter how good she is. Stealing your best friend's man, what kind of person does that? I went into the lecture hall and sat in the front row, closest to the teacher, opened the textbook, and started reading. My hair kept falling on the page, so I tied it back in a low ponytail, which apparently made me look demure, which is a word nobody has ever used about me. Then Zhang Hao and Lin Yan came in. Neither of them was in my major. But her English class was mine, and he came along because he had nothing else to do. They both spotted the hair color immediately, both hesitated, and then, because the back was full, sat in the second row. Directly behind me. Close enough to touch. The room went absolutely silent. All 3 points of the love triangle in one frame. Somebody had a phone out recording within 4 seconds. Lin Yan felt she ought to say something. Xiaoling Jay. Are you feeling better? Nothing. I'm sorry, Aoling. I'm really sorry. Nothing. She lowered her head and bit her lip and clenched her hands on the desk, and to anybody watching, she looked like a girl absorbing a terrible injustice. Zhang Hao frowned and took her hand, but his eyes were on me. Wei Ling, Yan is talking to you. Still nothing. And this was the thing he could not tolerate, being denied face in front of an audience. So, he reached over and grabbed my arm. I want to be fair to myself here. I did not decide to do what happened next. My hand caught his and slammed it into the edge of the desk before the rest of me had finished the sentence I was reading. He screamed before he understood he'd been hurt. I came back to the room, let go, stood up, leaned against my desk with my arms folded, and looked down at him. Sk. I thought you'd broken a bone, a little bump and you squeal like a stuck pig. Wei Ling, Lin Yan was already at his side, checking the injury. Zhang Hao. Let's go to the hospital. It's red and swollen. We should get it checked to be safe. Then the tears arrived, right on schedule, and she looked up at me. Xiaoling, it's my fault. Don't be angry at him. The door opened and the English teacher walked in on all of it and asked, extremely unimpressed, what exactly we thought we were doing, and to sit down and to take our business outside. So I shrugged and sat down. Teacher, I said. These 2 inexplicable people have been disturbing my studies. I was planning to finish reading this lesson's text before class started and they've delayed everything. Also, this boy isn't from our major. I'll have to ask you to handle it. Auditing lectures is normal at a university. Disrupting other students is not. And she knew exactly who he was, and knew about the rumors, and had nothing she needed from the Yi family. If this classmate wants to listen to the lecture, sit properly. If not, please leave. Darting. Several hundred people watched Zhang Hao stand up and walk out of a room. Lin Yan scrambled after him, stopping at the door to bow apologetically and explain that his hand was injured and she was taking him to the hospital. The teacher waved her out, cleared her throat, and began the lesson. Nobody's mind was in the room yet. They were all still watching me, and I was already reading again. Somebody whispered, so cool. That move was amazing. He screamed like his mother had died. Isn't that a bit ruthless? Zhang Hao has never lost his composure like that. He deserved it. Who told him to disturb somebody while they were studying? And then somebody laughed, because none of them had heard the phrase disturbing somebody's studies since high school. And thinking about it, that is genuinely what had happened. I was studying. They bothered me. I filed a complaint. The video went up on the campus forum and the view count climbed all afternoon and the comments split about 6 ways. And I want to be clear that I didn't know any of that existed. What I knew was that while the teacher lectured, I finished the entire textbook, front to back, and it felt fantastic. So I took my library card and went to get more. I checked out 10 books. Brick thick. Business English, spoken communication, the things that would actually be useful to me. Jake Handsome. A handsome boy came over as I was about to pick them up and offered to carry them, because how could he let a girl do that? I thought about it. It was true that the previous owner of this body had never carried anything heavy, so I smiled and said thank you. His heart was pounding, which I could hear, and he reached for the stack while carefully maintaining his image, and it turned out 10 brick-thick books are heavy, Jess. And I thought about the stairs outside the library, which are high, and about him dropping the stack on those stairs, and about 10 books going in 10 directions, and about me having to pick them all up. I hate trouble. So I reached over and took them back. I'll do it myself. Thank you for today. Goodbye, do. Then I walked out of the library, carrying 10 brick-thick books in 8-centimeter heels, down the stairs, at a normal pace, without looking at my feet. The boys stood there. So did everyone else in the reading room. Somewhere in that building, a young man was rethinking his entire purpose. I got in the car, put the books on the passenger seat, changed into red flats, put my sunglasses on, and reversed out in one motion. That was the day I acquired Fangirls, which I would not find out about for 2 weeks. At the company I went up from the underground garage. The secretary smiled and said, "Young miss, are you done with school? Call me Wei Ling from now on. I'm an intern, there's no need for special treatment." "All right, Wei Ling. Director Liu is in a meeting, about half an hour." I knew perfectly well they'd never treat me like an ordinary person, and that's fine, that's normal. I just needed them relaxed enough to answer my questions, because I had a great many questions. I had my own desk in my mother's office. She'd had it custom made. It was too big and extremely comfortable. I put my library books away, pulled the corporate history, and went through the whole thing again in detail, and then I went and made tea. Now, the previous owner had learned tea ceremony, flower arranging, painting and calligraphy, purely out of interest, and never had one single occasion to show anybody, so nobody knew what she could do. I lived in the cultivation world for a very long time. If nothing else, my tea is not something people in that world could match. I brewed 2 cups for them and a milk tea for myself, and carried them in, and heard my father saying he was flying out tomorrow for the overseas project, 3 days, and that the CEO corporation matter was hers now. I'll meet Wang Jun and go over the specifics. The OG said, everything was set up for Yi Corporation, so a lot has to change. Dive. One step at a time, no mistakes. I handed them the tea. "Madam, can I come with you? I've never seen a real negotiation. This is the perfect thing to learn beside you." "Sure, how about this? You'll assist on the Xiao Corporation contact. Help Special Assistant Wei coordinate, set the appointments, handle communication, sit in on meetings, take minutes, then draft proposals in private and I'll correct them. Those are the most basic jobs on a project. They are also the fastest way in the world to see how everything actually works." "All right," I said, and I drank most of my milk tea and picked up my laptop and went to find Secretary Fang to learn how to take meeting minutes. She shook her head, laughing. She really does exactly what she says. Immediately, my father leaned back on the sofa with his tea and squinted happily. "It's so good that she's like this. Efficient at work, passionate about life. Haven't you seen the news about people killing themselves over a breakup because life felt meaningless? Dealing to recover that fast and come out better. I feel lucky even in my dreams." While I was learning to take minutes, Zhang Hao was finding out that he had won. His father told him on the phone. Engagement dissolved, formally, permanently, company down over $1 billion. He had wanted this for 11 months. He had rehearsed the fight with me for it. He had prepared himself to have his cards frozen and to defy his family for love. And when he actually got it, he felt nothing. Worse than nothing. He felt like someone had removed an organ he never used but had counted on having. I know all this because, he told me later, at a very bad moment for him, and because a man like that cannot stop explaining himself. He had liked me once. Childhood sweethearts, matched families, a golden boy and a jade girl, and he was proud of it. Then he started comparing. If he stood me up I sulked and he needed Lin Yan to coax me. If he made me angry I wouldn't give him face and it was Lin Yan who saved it. After a fight I never apologized first and it was Lin Yan who engineered the peace. One girl made him comfortable. The other required effort. Sad. And so many girls at school were chasing him, so why should he work at it? Then Lin Yan began to shine. First in her major. Danced at the gala. Played piano. He had never noticed that the shadow behind me was talented. And when he finally showed his hand, she refused him, and avoided him, and that refusal is what did it. She told him she didn't want to ruin us, and asked him to keep it secret, and promised that when he stopped liking her she would quietly step away as if nothing had happened. Every single thing that girl said was engineered to hurt him in a pleasant way. It worked perfectly. That's the whole story of how a man wrecks his own life. He wanted a happy family instead of his parents' polite arrangement, so he insisted on breaking the engagement. so he could be with the person he truly liked, and then he sat in a car and remembered a box of shredded photographs. He borrowed the driver's phone, because I'd blocked his, and called me. I picked up on the second ring. Hello, D? He didn't say anything. He was busy realizing he hadn't spoken to me on the phone in a long time. Hello? Who is this? He cleared his throat. My father told me we've already dissolved the engagement. Are you doing all right? I heard the word engagement and knew exactly who it was. Do you think I'd be doing badly? I asked. D. Because I lost a piece of trash that somebody else already used? His voice went straight to gravel. Wei Ling? Who are you calling trash? What do you mean somebody used it? Do you live in a feudal society? I actually thought about that one seriously. Women in a feudal society don't have that kind of thinking actually. And obviously normal dating between men and women isn't trash. But weren't you my fiancé, and isn't a fiancé fooling around with someone else considered cheating? So doesn't that mean somebody else used my thing? Explain to me what's wrong with the word trash. I made a face at the ceiling. Tsk, I feel dirty just thinking about it. You fake hey. Was that all you wanted? Whether I'm doing well? I'm doing quite well. Don't call me again. It's disgusting. Hanging up. He slammed the phone down hard enough that the driver swerved. The car pulled over. The driver picked up his own phone off the seat, checked it, and let him have it. Are you sick? I kindly lent you my phone and you slam it. I'll pay for one. 5,000 yuan. Transferred, door open, out. The driver muttered at his back. Is having money so great? What a psycho. John Hao walked along the road with his hands in his pockets and my voice going around his skull like a bell. He told me later that if I had said all of that in anger he wouldn't have minded so much. Because people say things in fights and he doesn't speak nicely either. The problem was I said it the way you read a weather report. He called home for the car and thought, fine. Wei Ling finds me disgusting. I find Wei Ling bad in every possible way. Tough today. Let's see what kind of man she can find. Meanwhile, I called a door-to-door service and changed my SIM card. The previous owner had been inseparable from Lin Yan and had no other close friends. The rest were acquaintances, and none of them were mine anyway. So I gave the new number to my parents, my mentor, and the company, and left it at that. Add other people if I ever wanted to. Then I sat in the home study and built my mother's schedule for the week and sent it to Special Assistant Wei, who approved it and sent back a thumbs up, which delighted me more than it should have. Liu Ji came in with a glass of milk and told me not to stay up. It's 10, I'll sleep at 11. Don't worry, I rest when I'm tired. She smoothed my hair and went out, and then she stood in the hallway for a moment, and then she went to her room and drafted a document listing everything she could personally teach me and every project the company could put me on. She was making a plan to raise me. The child had grown up and it was time to show her a wider world. I found that document years later. I'm not going to pretend it didn't land somewhere. The next day, I wore red to class. Red V-neck dress, high ponytail, a lot of vitality, and a fairly aggressive kind of beauty. Lin Yan is my exact opposite, aesthetically. Soft, pretty face. A small smile that makes people feel they've stepped into a spring breeze. We came up the stairs from two different sides and met at the classroom door, which was pure comedy timing. Everyone nearby went quiet and started stepping very lightly, apparently unable to face the idea of two great beauties having a scene at a doorway. Jian, be careful. Lin Yan pursed her lips, paused, and then walked toward me like she had something to say. She had a smile ready. Plenty of people could see she was about to speak. I took my textbook out of my bag while walking, went past her without breaking stride, sat in the middle of the front row, and started reading. Damn. Whatever she had prepared died in her throat, with an audience. I want to be clear that I did not do that as a tactic. I genuinely had not noticed her. That's the part she could never handle. She lowered her head and went and sat in the back row with her friend, who muttered a few things about me. Accounting that day. It turned out accounting is related to how a company keeps its books, so I paid close attention. The teacher recognized me as the girl who'd broken the campus forum and decided on a whim to call on me a few times, and I got them all right, which made her extremely pleased. Everyone should be as serious as Wei Ling. Only by putting your heart into it do you learn real knowledge. Next class, I'll ask questions, and I hope everyone can answer like Wei Ling did today. Dismissed. I was already packing, because I had a meeting in 2 hours. A girl 2 seats over gathered her courage. Wei Ling, you're amazing. First compliment anyone in that world had given me. I turned and smiled at her and said thank you, and honestly meant it. She and the 4 or 5 people around her sat there stunned. They'd all agreed before that Lin Yan's smile was lovely and warm, and made you want to smile back. They had not known that when I smile it comes out bright and hot and completely unashamed of itself. And that it's hard to look away from. Wei Ling, you should smile more. Yeah, you're better looking than celebrities. I have a feeling you're going to become the campus goddess. Thank you all. I smiled at them again, picked up my bag and stood. I'm in a rush, so I'll go first. Goodbye, Jetter. They waved at me with the specific delight of people who have just discovered that a scary person is actually fine. And that was the exact moment Lin Yan's new friend decided to become a protagonist. She dragged Lin Yan over and blocked my path. Wei Ling, what's the meaning of this? You pretended to be blind when you saw Yan earlier and now you know how to talk to people? You know exactly why Zhang Hao dumped you. Besides, didn't you take a breakup fee? What right do you have to blame Yan? Lin Yan pulled at her arm urgently. No, there was no breakup fee. Don't talk nonsense. I paused. Who are you? She had not expected that. I'm in the same dormitory as you. You don't know me? I've never lived in the dormitory, I said. So why should I know you? Then I looked her over properly and went and got her out of the filing cabinet. I remember now. You're one of Zhang Hao's pursuers. You sent him love letters 6 times. 2. He threw all 6 in the trash. Every time you cried and said you'd never give up. And now, I looked at Lin Yan standing beside her. So you learned the secret and you're planning to walk the road Lin Yan walked. Lin Yan's expression changed. Just slightly. Enough. The girl panicked, because nobody had ever seen her deliver those letters, which meant either Zhang Hao told me, or something worse. That never happened. Yan, don't believe her. Then, to me, Wei Ling, don't try to sow discord. What evidence do you have? I folded my arms and looked at her with real bewilderment. Why would I need evidence? You're strange. The guy you like cheated. Shouldn't you be disillusioned and calling him a scumbag? Why are you over here gloating? And if you want to learn from Lin Yan, at least learn the part where she plays innocent and gets away clean. Jumping out like this to remind an entire lecture hall that Lin Yan is a mistress is useless. It'll just make Zhang Hao hate you. I picked up my bag. Also, Zhang Hao didn't dump me. I found him dirty. That grade of trash isn't worthy of me. It fits Lin Yan perfectly. I'm in a hurry. I don't have time to chat. Duh. I walked around them. 2 steps later I stopped and looked back. What did you just say? Breakup fee? Go ask Zhang Hao whether he can even afford my breakup fee. All he could manage was letting Lin Yan borrow a small apartment that's in his name. Then, kindly to her. Lin Yan, remember to work hard on getting that apartment transferred into your name. Duh. Otherwise, be careful you end up with nothing. And then I thought about the girl whose body I was wearing, and I laughed, because she had been so sincere it was almost unbearable. Speaking of which, I was originally going to give you an apartment in Dijing Garden when you graduated. But your mother isn't my family's servant anymore, and you aren't my little sister anymore, so forget the apartment. Thinking about the things I prepared for you makes me sick. I'll sell it and donate the money to charity. Then I looked at both of them and said, since you've wasted so much of my time today, wait for the school's disciplinary action. And don't come near me again. My phone rang. Special Assistant Wei asking where I was. I checked my watch. Dear, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I won't keep President Wang waiting. Special Assistant Wei, take your time with my mother and tell the driver not to speed. Then I walked out of a completely silent lecture hall. The silence broke about 4 seconds later, and I want to tell you what broke it because it wasn't loyalty. It was arithmetic. A boy said, slowly, Dijing Garden. I was bored the other day and looked at an agent's window. Used apartments are 80,000 a square meter and there's nothing in that complex under 100 square meters. Does that mean Wei Ling was going to give Lin Yan an 8 million yuan apartment? And now she's donating that 8 million? It seems so. Maybe bigger than 100 square. So maybe 10 million. Is Wei Ling that rich? The girl I rebutted tried to hold the line. You believe whatever she says? We don't know if she has a house or if she'll donate it. She's just talking. And a girl beside her rolled her eyes. That's still better than you. You like Zhang Hao, but you won't pursue him openly. You lurk around Lin Yan waiting for a chance to become the mistress. Oh, right. 6 love letters, and Zhang Hao and Wei Ling were still together at the time, weren't they? So, you've wanted to be a mistress for a long time. No wonder. It's a trick learned from Lin Yan, isn't it? Didn't Lin Yan also lurk around Wei Ling to become a mistress? And ended up in a small apartment. If she'd just clung to Wei Ling's leg, she'd have a mansion worth tens of millions. Lin Yan, do you regret it? University students are simpler than people in society and they have a much stronger sense of justice. Normally, nobody would have said a word. But after 2 consecutive days of watching those two come at me and then try to fog up the facts in front of everyone, people got annoyed. Lin Yan heard herself called a schemer by a classmate, understood immediately that explaining would make it worse, grabbed her bag, and ran out crying. Which was, I'll admit, the correct play. Nobody enjoys watching a girl cry, whatever they think of her. She was already planning how to use it. Her friend, however, had no such instincts. She turned on the whole room. What are you doing? You scolded Lin Yan and now me. What did I say wrong? Can Wei Ling's family compare to Zhang Hao's family? She talks nicely now. But didn't she end up in the hospital when Zhang Hao dumped her? Then she comes back driving a supercar with jewelry several grades higher than before. Jocks. What else could it be but a breakup fee? Somebody on the forum guessed that too. Guessing means it isn't confirmed. You brought it up. You deserved the answer. Besides, if she took a breakup fee, would she be that disrespectful to him? Do you have a brain? They started packing up. All right, Lin Yan ran off. Go chase her and comfort her. Yes, if you comfort her well, you might still get a shot at stealing from beside her. And then somebody on that forum, anonymous, posted the thing that reframed the entire semester. Wei Ling is the heiress of Dongfang Group. Her parents are the chairs. University students know the names of famous companies. Dongfang Group is top tier. The post detonated. The anonymous account never replied again, and it didn't need to, because the gossip committee finished the puzzle themselves. Lin Yan was the servant's daughter, walking behind me in designer clothes, riding in my car. She wasn't satisfied. She took my boyfriend, planning to marry into the Yi family and become a wealthy madam. Now, she was living in his small apartment. If she married in, she was a shameless climber who made it. If he dumped her, that was even more interesting, because Wei Ling was prepared to give her a mansion worth tens of millions. And would Zhang Hao? She might lose the wife and the soldiers both. As for Zhang Hao, he fell off his pedestal that afternoon and never got back on. Male god became scumbag and cheapskate, and my phrase filthy bug became one of his nicknames. People who disliked him on that forum stopped using his name entirely. They just called him that filthy bug. Lin Yan sat at home staring at the trending list with her eyes red, and everything she had spent a year constructing was gone in 90 minutes. And her real fear was not the students. It was one question. How would the Yi family look at her now? I never opened the campus forum. Not once, ever. What I did was drive to the tea house and call my counselor on the way in. Arguments between classmates are a small matter. But when one side is clearly in the wrong and the other side insists on pursuing it, a school will handle it. Rules exist. I like rules. I have spent my whole life playing inside other people's rules and finding the seams. Today, some classmates and I had an unpleasant incident in the classroom. They delayed my internship work, and they created a negative impact among the students. If their mistake isn't punished, I'm worried others will follow their example. I hope you can curb this promptly and let the students know that harassing people is wrong. Then I gave a short factual account and mentioned that every student in the major could testify. She had already seen the post. She heard my tone. She said, I understand this matter. After I discuss it with the director, we'll issue the appropriate punishment. Do focus on your studies and your internship, and don't let this affect you. Thank you, teacher. That was it. Problem solved with the tools the environment provided, and out of my head before I reached the private room. I sat down and took out the project documents for a last check. And then a man knocked 3 times on the doorframe. Hello, I'm Wang Jun. May I ask if you're young Miss Wei? I looked up. Black suit, custom, the kind that has been argued about with a tailor. Gold-rimmed glasses sitting on a high straight nose, doing a poor job of hiding a very sharp pair of eyes. Angular brows. The whole effect was resilient and grown-up and extremely controlled. I looked from his face down to a tie knotted with real precision, and I finally understood what people in that world meant by ascetic style. It is a fatal kind of attraction. It makes a person want to take the outer layer off and find out what's under it. I stood up and put my hand out. President Wang. Nice to meet you, I'm Wei. His palm was dry and warm and a size larger than mine. And when we shook, my hand looked fair and soft and entirely harmless next to it. Our palms touched and separated. First handshake of my life. I found it novel. President Wang, I'm truly sorry. Director Liu is running late. There's an accident on her route. I just confirmed. About 15 minutes. Please excuse the wait. He nodded and sat down with his assistant. It's fine. Young Miss Wei is being too polite. I sat across from him, picked up a cup, and smiled. My tea brewing is decent. Dinting, why don't I make you a cup, and then briefly explain our expectations for the project? Alright, thank you for your trouble. He knew whose daughter I was, so he wasn't going to treat me like a little assistant. And while I was scalding the cups, he picked up a scoop and started measuring leaves, cooperating, brewing it with me. It told me something. President Wang likes tea. I assumed a young president would prefer black coffee. My father likes it, so I learned some from him. Then, after visibly deliberating over whether to say more, it's rare to see a young lady brew tea, as well as young Miss Wei. This is my first time seeing it. He is not a talkative man. He was making conversation because it would be rude to leave a partner sitting in silence. I could see him doing the arithmetic on politeness, and it was, I'm sorry to say, adorable. I handed him and his assistant their tea. Please, have a taste. He took a sip. Something moved behind the glasses. He raised his eyes, nodded, and complimented me on it, and asked whether I'd learned it formally. Yes. Before I started at the company, I had a lot of free time, so I learned some things I was interested in. Then I opened the folder and turned it toward him. President Wang, these are our evaluation reports. As you can see, the investment is in place with the surplus provided. Dongfang has designated this as one of the 2 major projects for the year. The team is led personally by Director Liu and staffed with our best people. Human, physical, and financial resources are fully prepared. He scanned it the way people read who actually read, went straight to 4 numbers, and asked the only question that mattered. This project is very large and will require a lot of the company's resources. Dongfang has another important project this year. How will you resolve a conflict? I flipped to the last page. Here's the start date for the other project. It's several months later and currently in preparation, so there's no conflict. Also, it's handled by the team under Chairman Shu and it's primarily overseas. President Wang knows that although Hua Corporation and So Corporation merged, we retain the strength to run 2 major projects at once. After the merger, we're more efficient than before, not less. 1 + 1 is greater than 2, and you can rest assured about that. And if we can confirm at the middle stage that the prospects are better than expected, we can run a second round of financing and increase the investment. I put the folder down. Our sincerity is real. I believe Shao Corporation's is as well. We only need to iron out details, and then we're going to have a very pleasant cooperation. Wouldn't you agree? He nodded. Gao Corporation has already allocated most of its available resources to this project. We value it very much, and I'm very optimistic about the prospects. Then we spent 10 minutes probing each other about investment plans and personnel allocation, and he had every number at his fingertips because of course he did, and at some point I felt him recalibrate. He told me much later exactly what he was thinking, and it's worth repeating. He knew Xu Ming and Lu Ji doted on their daughter. He knew they were healthy and loved their work and were in no hurry to train an heir, that they wanted her to enjoy university and join in a couple of years. He knew I'd broken with Jiang Hao and been hospitalized. He knew I'd been an intern for a matter of days, with even less time on this project. And I was sitting across from him running the file. If his impression of me before that room was a college girl who drank herself sick over a boy, then in that room, he threw it out. He decided Dongfeng Group would not decline in my hands, and that cooperating with us had been the correct call. He decided all that in 10 minutes, before my mother even arrived, and he never once revised it. That's the man. Sharp, fast, and completely unwilling to say any of it out loud. Liu Ji and Special Assistant Wei came in. He got up to greet her first, said the right pleasant things, and they got straight into specifics, and the 10 minutes he and I had spent probing each other saved them about an hour. Which left me with the actual job. I sat beside Special Assistant Wei and watched everything he did and typed. Not a transcript, the flow of it, the important content, and, in a second column, every place where the two sides said something imprecise, plus my own questions marked out. When their tea ran low, I refilled it. On his way out, Wang Jun glanced at my screen. The way you glance at something you have already decided to look at. He found annotations. He told me later that recording a meeting like that requires fast hands and a memory well past ordinary, and that thinking about content and generating questions while transcribing is not a thing just anyone does. What he actually did in the moment was look at me. And I caught it, and I smiled at him. And he thought, this young girl smiles a lot, and she's quite capable, and if she puts her heart into a career, there is going to be another shark in these waters. The meeting was a success. Both sides showed strength and sincerity. Both got more confident, and they agreed to exchange proposals in a week and then bring both full teams together to draft the final agreement. Both companies were busy, so we had a fast meal and went back to work. In the car, my mother said, Xiaoling, you did so well just now. If I didn't know you'd never done this before, I'd have thought you'd been working for years. I lit up, and I want to be honest. That was not performed. Really? I was just about to ask. It was my first time meeting a partner. I watched business tutorial videos in advance, but I wasn't sure. She praised me without a single reservation, which is a thing I had never experienced, and then said, look how well you learned tea art. You only took about a dozen lessons, didn't you? I think you're just smarter than other people. I considered that. My divine sense is roughly the difference between a calculator and an abacus. So, technically, yes. Madam, hearing you say that puts my mind at ease. I've never dealt with any of this, but since I'm doing okay, I'll work harder and help you and Patriarch sooner. As long as you're happy. Don't get too tired. Your father and I are young. We have time to wait for you. Don't worry. Once I can take over, I'm giving you both a vacation. Go travel the world on a honeymoon. Maybe give me a little brother or sister while you're at it. Go on. How old do you think we are? She tapped me laughing, then sighed. Hey. Having you is enough for us. Just being with you makes us happy no matter what we're doing. Then after a while, she got careful, and I recognized the tone. It's the tone of a parent about to bring up the thing they've been rehearsing. Xiaoling, a lot of people say you should have a relationship in college. Because once that stage passes, you might not have that kind of fluttering innocence anymore. Are there any boys pursuing you at school? I thought back carefully and counted. There are. About 6 right now. She was startled. So many. Well, my daughter is outstanding. That's only natural. Then, Xiaoling, have you thought about another boyfriend? Madam knows Zhang Hao hurt you, and lately you've been so focused on your career. It's not that that's bad, but could you be a bit resistant to dating? I turned and looked at her and laughed, because that was genuinely funny to me. Madam, what are you imagining? Are you worried I've developed psychological issues because of Zhang Hao and Lin Yan? How could that be? I'm perfectly fine. None of those classmates chasing me has struck a chord, and I happen to find the company's affairs interesting, so I've been more enthusiastic about work. If I meet a good man, I won't hesitate. Don't worry. Oh, then Madam can rest easy. By the way, what kind of boys do you like? Can you tell, Madam? And that's when I had to actually think about it. And I'm going to give you the honest, internal version, because it explains the next 30 years of my life. Demonic cultivators come together when we're compatible and part when we're not. Life is very long. Everyone's opportunities diverge. Sometimes a person walks into a secret realm for 200 years, and when they come out, you don't even know whether they're alive. And after enough time, personalities change, ideas change at every stage. So the right person changes too. Almost nobody stays with anybody forever. So what kind of man would hold me for a while? That's the whole specification. Otherwise, what exactly is the point of having a partner? Women who have no power and need a man to lean on, we have a word for that arrangement, and it isn't a kind one. I have never needed a man to be stronger than me. I need him to be interesting. So I smiled at my mother and said, "Madam, it's hard to say what type. It's like how I love traditional tea art, and also milk tea, and also coffee. Lots of types of men are quite good. I'll like whoever can coax me into being happy every day." She stared at me. What if the one coaxing you is a professional pretty boy? Then, being able to coax me well isn't simple either, I said. Can't I afford to support a pretty boy? I watched my mother's entire worldview take a small step sideways, because she thought about it, and she found she couldn't fault it. Our family's money is vast, dank. And she started thinking about all the socialite wives she knew, and how at least 70% of them were quietly enduring philandering husbands, and how none of that was more comfortable than simply keeping a pretty boy. The Yi couple each played their own games. Zhang Xiang kept starlets. Zhang Mei kept young male models. She put a hand over her forehead and laughed helplessly at herself. How had she ended up thinking about pretty boys? Then she tried to save it, and she said the thing that mothers say, and she said it sincerely, and I want to give her words their full weight because she wasn't wrong. She was describing her own marriage. What you're talking about isn't the same as what's between a husband and wife. A couple has to tolerate each other to go far. And with that tolerance and sacrifice, the feelings get deeper and more intimate. When you hit setbacks, you become each other's support and get through them without ever leaving. If there are children, the family is more stable. It has to be managed carefully, but it isn't hard when you meet the right person. And you'll be willing, and you'll take joy from it. I raised a hand. Madam, wait a moment. And then I told her something I had never explained out loud to anybody. Think about how short a life is, a few decades. If there's an accident, less. I have to manage a career. I want to learn about things that interest me. I need time for my own enjoyment, and then I'd like to see a few good friends. That leaves a tiny sliver of leisure. So why should I insist on finding a suitable person to tolerate and manage a marriage with an uncertain outcome? I'll find someone who makes me happy without needing to think about how it ends. If he makes me uncomfortable, I'll switch to someone else who makes me happy. Think about it that way. Whether my life is 10 years or 30 or 80, I'm happy the whole time. Every hour of leisure I have gets spent with someone coaxing me, and I never have to manage a household. How relaxing is that? And as for getting through hard times, I don't need anyone. I can do it myself. And if I can't solve something myself, then somebody else solving it for me is meaningless. My mother is an extremely eloquent woman. She sat there and could not refute me. Because her marriage was happy, and she knew perfectly well that in her circle her marriage was the exception. She thought it over and had to admit that marriage is a wager. Nobody can guarantee the person is right. Nobody can guarantee the road stays smooth. And a person like her daughter, who keeps herself happy on purpose, actually can guarantee a lifetime of it. And wasn't her original intention just that her daughter be happy. She had argued herself into a corner. The more she thought about it, the more confused she got. So she waved a hand and said, "Forget it. Forget it. You're young. Don't worry about marriage yet. Madam, don't worry at all. A person's life is too short. Dolls, I have so much to do. I feel like there isn't enough time. I don't want to spend energy on unfathomable things. Look, I'm quite happy right now. Why are you thinking about all this? True, how did we even get here? They say a woman's train of thought goes in circles and the ending topic has nothing to do with the starting one. It really is true. She laughed the whole rest of the way and stopped worrying about whether her daughter should marry or keep a pretty boy. I want you to hold on to that conversation. Both halves of it. My mother and I both walked away from it thinking we'd won, and one of us was going to be proved right in a hotel corridor 11 months later, in front of a bathroom door, with a man hiding behind it. I put the whole subject out of my head before we reached the parking garage. I did note, for about 1 second, that Wang Jun had looked very good in that suit. Then, we arrived and I went back to thinking about the project. Upstairs I organized documents with my mother and then called in the department heads. The minutes I'd taken were detailed enough that Liu Ji could see the whole conversation at a glance. And they also showed her exactly which parts of the project I'd already understood. So during the meeting, whenever we hit something I knew, she let me speak. The first time I stood up, those department heads were polite and skeptical. What could a young miss who joined the company last week possibly have to say? I spoke 3 times in that meeting. By the third they were arguing with me instead of humoring me, which is the highest compliment a department head can pay anybody. Afterward, I brewed my mother a herbal tea and made her sit and organized the whole document stack for her, writing my opinions on sticky notes where I understood things and my questions where I didn't. When she finished resting and picked it up, half her work was done. No wonder they say a daughter is a parent's thoughtful little padded jacket and that they mature fast after 20. Since you came, Xiao Ling, I feel so much lighter. No, I have to post a video and make your father jealous. And she took out her phone and filmed a slow pan across her desk, narrating. Wei, look how thoughtful Biao Ling is. I'm getting off work early again today. Maybe in a year or two I can retire. Den. I was lying on the office sofa eating fruit. Madam. Careful, or Patriarch won't bring you a gift. He wouldn't dare. If he doesn't bring a gift, he sleeps in the guest room. She read through everything I'd annotated, nodded and said, You did well, no problems. Just this one point, you need to account for travel budgets and the possibility that people can't adapt to the local environment when they're out of town. Increase both the budget and the time. Everything else is great. Then she walked me through the parts I'd flagged, one by one. I learned fast. She was proud. She told me later that she was happy every single day of that period. She had begun to understand a little of what I said in the car. There are too many things in life that can make a person happy, and romance is the least reliable of them. She was going to let her daughter do as she pleased. We got off work early and had a candlelight dinner, mother and daughter. Then I went home and studied an English dictionary for an hour, memorized an obscene number of words, and fell asleep extremely satisfied. I was on holiday. I had a car I loved, parents who were delighted by me, a language to eat, a company to take apart and understand, and a game console. Dang Hao and Lin Yan existed the way weather exists. When they got in front of me, I dealt with them, thoroughly, in about 90 seconds, and then I forgot about them. That, as it turns out, is what destroyed them. Not the 90 seconds, the forgetting. 2 days later, my counselor called to tell me the results were posted, announced where every student and teacher in the school could read it, with a line saying that a repeat offense meant a formal demerit in their permanent file. And that if it seriously affected other students, expulsion. A girl 2 seats away showed me the photo of the notice on her phone, thrilled. Wei Ling, you're so amazing. How did you do it? How were they warned? You don't know yet. Look, it says if they do it again, they get a demerit, and if it affects other classmates badly, they can be expelled. It's meant as a warning to everybody. Technically, that's not even a major disciplinary action. Nothing goes in a file, it's a poster, das. But students that age care about face more than they care about oxygen, and it was a poster in a place where every single person they knew would walk past it. Wei Ling, how did you even think of getting the counselor to punish them? I was honestly confused by the question. When there's a problem at school, don't you go to the counselor? I remember her saying that at the start of the year. That's true. But most people would have just beaten them up privately to vent. I shook my head. That's a waste of time. Also, hitting people is against the law. She blinked at me, and then she laughed until she had to hold the desk. Wei Ling, I didn't realize it before, but you're really interesting. I went back to my textbook. Look, every world has rules. As a demonic cultivator, my entire professional specialty was playing inside rules and finding the seam. I had not been in that world long, and even with a full set of borrowed memories, I did not yet understand its laws. What I did know was that it had cameras everywhere, and that there was apparently something called the heavenly eye watching from orbit. You do not test the bottom line of a law like that over a nuisance. And now that the nuisances had stopped coming near me, I had my answer. For students, a school-wide poster hits harder than a beating. That week, Zhang Hao sat in the back row of my English class and stared at my back like it owed him something. He genuinely could not understand what he was looking at. When had we ever studied this hard? Grow up, go into the company for training, inherit the business. That was the road. They'd learned more in half a year at the company than in 4 years of lectures. Hadn't they agreed that university was just the last of the leisure? Then he remembered something. In one of our old fights, he had told her that Lin Yan was better in every way, that she ranked first in her major, that she had accomplishments. Was that why Wei Ling had changed so much? But it made sense for Lin Yan to grind. What was the point of a corporate heiress doing it? Lin Yan watched where his eyes were pointed and the alarms went off in her head. She reached under the desk for his hand. Let's not talk about unhappy things. It's just a warning, I'm fine. No classes tomorrow. Do you want to go out? So much has happened, shall we go relax? My parents are strict right now. Later. By the way, is your mother adapting to living with you? She's doing well. When are you coming over? My mom cooks so well, and she still remembers what you like. It's a pity you haven't come. In a while. And there it was. He did not want to go to that apartment. That apartment had been the little world for two. Now there was an extra person in it, and an elder at that, and it was awkward. He had never really thought of Wang Hui as a servant. After 10 years, he'd more or less filed her as half a Zhou family relative. But having to file her as his future mother-in-law made his skin crawl no matter how the conversation went, so the solution was not to see her. Lin Yan registered every degree of that and started planning to rent her mother a room somewhere else. hissed her ped, without looking at her. Aren't you the one who understands Wei Ling best? Do you think she's playing hard to get? When she went to the counselor and got you publicly warned, was that specifically aimed at you? She bit her lip and smiled. What are you thinking? Wei Ling's personality is that she's exceptionally good to people she likes and ruthless to the end with people she doesn't. She must wish she never had to see us again. Why would she take the initiative to target me? Yesterday it was somebody else who wanted to harm me. If Wei Ling hadn't exposed it in public, I'd still be in the dark. That is a beautiful piece of work. Watch it again. She agrees with him, praises me, absolves me, and casts herself as the person I accidentally saved. Jiang Hao said, that girl, a clown. Don't pay attention to her. Be more careful choosing friends. And then he put his head down on the desk because he did not like hearing Lin Yan say those things, and he could not have told you why. It opened because she was too good at her job. After class, I was first out the door and heading for the parking lot. He left her with one sentence. I have something urgent. Go back on your own. And ran. He caught me at my car. Wei Ling, can we resolve our issues privately? It doesn't look good for anyone if this goes to the teachers. If my mom finds out, she'll definitely think Xiaowei has a bad reputation at school. For the sake of our many years of history, can you please not target her? I leaned against the door and looked at him, and I want you to understand that this was the moment I stopped finding him tiresome and started finding him interesting. The way a specimen is interesting, Jiang Hao. Has anyone ever told you that you're very arrogant? Do you think the whole world revolves around you? That everything anybody does has something to do with you? I advise you to take that filter off. You'll find that in my eyes, you are not even as good as an ant. He opened his mouth. Don't come near me and I'll forget you completely. But if you insist on picking a fight, I don't mind the trouble of crushing you. Then I asked him a question in exactly the tone you'd use about the weather. Is Yi Corporation bidding on anything at the moment? If Zhou Corporation goes and takes that bid, what do you think happens? He stared. Teen, understand human speech and stay away from me. That's my last warning. Then I put my sunglasses on, got in, started the engine, and left without wasting a second. He kicked his own tire. When had it come to this? They couldn't even finish a conversation, and she was threatening him, using company business, like a child in a schoolyard fight, running to get an adult. Trek. Then he called his father to check. Is Yi Corporation bidding on anything recently? If the Zhou family comes for it, what happens to us? His father went very still. What do you mean? Is the Zhou family interested in that project? Patriarch, don't ask, just tell me the result. The Zhou family's strength is currently a large chunk above ours. If they come for it, we lose. There's no question. What exactly is going on? Did you hear something? He ran a hand through his hair. Nothing. Wei Ling told me to stay away from her or she'd take our bid. His father was quiet for a moment, then very low. Are you sick in the head? You cheated on her. You betrayed her. The engagement is already dissolved. What are you bothering her for now? Don't tell me you've discovered you like her again. What were you doing all this time? Stay away from her and tell that little nanny of yours to get lost too. If you actually offend the Zhou family and ruin this company's business, I'll skin you alive. Behave yourself and don't make me take action against her. Snap. Line dead. Zhang Hao sat there full of grievance. He and Wei Ling were a bad match. He had wanted out. She had kept clinging, which was annoying. So, how had it all inverted overnight into him chasing and her being annoyed to death by him? He hadn't even settled accounts for Filthy Bug yet, and now she was threatening his family's business. It's just like Lin Yan said, he decided. Once Wei Ling is done with someone, she's completely heartless and doesn't care about old ties. He sneered at that thought. He wasn't a masochist. If it hadn't been to protect Lin Yan, would he have gone to find her at all? He called some friends and went drinking, and hung up on Lin Yan when she called, because he was in no mood to flirt. And at about 1 in the morning, drunk in a private room, surrounded by rich second-generation friends and hired company in volume, he fumbled out his phone and dialed the number he knew by heart. The number you have dialed is disconnected. Please check the number and dial again. He pushed the girl next to him away, grabbed the nearest heir by the sleeve, and slurred. Do you have Wei Ling's number? Find it. The man flipped through his contacts. Isn't this it? He looked. The number he had memorized when he was 9 years old. No, disconnected. Huh? Then she must have cancelled it. The man stood up and clapped his hands at the room. Hey, who has Wei Ling's new number? Nobody moved because everybody looked, and everybody found the old one. Somebody tried her messaging app and found the account gone entirely. They looked at each other. What's going on? Is Wei Ling not planning to associate with us anymore? And then one of them said the thing that broke him. What do you know? I heard from my uncle that Wei Ling is really capable now. She sits in on Dongfang project meetings. She has a say. She's a proper group heir already. I know about that. The other day I took my mom shopping and saw Wei Ling with Wang Jun from Xiao Corporation. Looked like she was there on business with her mother. It's tisk tisk. Different from us, isn't she? Isn't that normal? Who in our circle still hangs out with us once they start working seriously? He went into the restroom and splashed cold water on his face until he could see straight, and then he looked at himself in the mirror. He had been the most popular boy in every school he ever attended. At university, people called him a male god. When he played basketball, crowds came. And Wei Ling was interning at a company. Wei Ling could threaten him with a bid he did not know his own company was making. And he was here, in a bar, with a girl he had to look up on his phone. He told me later, and I believe him, that the word that arrived in his head at that sink was stray dog. He called his father from the bathroom with the music still hammering through the wall. Patriarch, I want to join the company. You want to join the company? Are you drunk and talking nonsense? He wiped his face. No, I don't want to be outdone by Wei Ling. I feel like I'm now, like a stray dog. Silence. Then, cold and quiet. I'll send the driver. Come home immediately and go to the company with me tomorrow. Jiang Hao. Remember exactly how you feel right now. And don't let the Zhou family look down on you, as. I want to give Zhang Xiong his due here. He was not a fool. He had been swallowing his own rage for a week. In his world, the little nanny was a triviality. The triviality had cost the company over $1 billion. And he was bleeding money while everyone at every dinner table praised the Zhou family's daughter for being promising and helping her parents. He believed his son was outstanding. He believed that even if the Yi family lost a round, when both companies eventually sat in the hands of Zhang Hao and Wei Ling, his son would take Yi Corporation past us. Luck changes, he thought. There's still a long time to go. He was wrong about the timeline by roughly 11 months. Jiang Hao fell asleep the moment he got into the car. His phone rang the entire way. The driver glanced at the screen, saw the name, and silenced it. Lin Yan called him over 30 times that night, terrified he was with me. Not one call went through. His mother heard from his father that the boy was joining the company and drew her own conclusion, which was that her son still hadn't let go of Wei Ling. Zhang Mei thought this was excellent news. If there was any turning point left for the alliance between the families, obviously you push. As for my threat about the bid, she didn't believe a word of it. Angry words from a child. So she made a round of calls, found a pretext at the school, got my new number, and rang me personally. I had just gotten out of the shower. I put it on speaker and kept drying my hair. Hello, Dialing. It's your Madam Zhang. Why didn't you tell me you changed your number? I was just thinking of inviting you for a spa treatment. I raised an eyebrow at the ceiling. Madam Zhang, I've been busy, not much leisure. You could ask Lin Yan to go with you. She dropped that girl off a bridge without breaking stride. Lin Yan, Lin Cece, whatever. I don't even know her. I only like our Xiaoling. How have you been lately? When you were in the hospital, I was abroad on vacation and couldn't come, and then you and Zhang Hao had some unpleasantness and I didn't have the face to see you. Dix, I'm doing great, I said, with no politeness whatsoever. I never realized the world was this interesting. This has been the happiest stretch since I grew up, madam. I have work, so I won't chat. Wait, hold on. Her voice did something painful. Xiaoling, Zhang Hao is starting at the company. That child only followed you into a company because he saw you there. He finally knows how to strive. Only you can make him listen. You'll be in the same circle. Please help me keep an eye on him. Our two families have had a relationship for over a decade. We're as close as one family. I treat you like my own daughter. He made a mistake, and I've already scolded him. He promised me he'd change. Please don't be a stranger with us. Later I'll have him pour you tea and apologize. And that's when I finally understood where Zhang Hao got it from. I have met minions in the demon realm who could not talk to themselves that fluently. This woman had constructed an entire reconciliation, agreed to it on my behalf, and scheduled the ceremony, in one paragraph, out loud, to a person who had said nothing. I picked the phone up off the counter. Madam Zhang. I cannot tolerate sand in my eyes. With Lin Yan and Wang Hui living there, anybody who isn't blind can see them. If you have business, look for Lin Yan. It is impossible for me to have any dealings with Zhang Hao. Otherwise people in the circle will see it and decide that I, Wei Ling, am easy to bully. A soft persimmon anybody can squeeze. I checked the time. All right, I'm busy. Let's leave it there. I hung up and tossed the phone on the bed. Then I turned my hand over, and the mirror came out and I used it to smooth my hair. Because it is an immortal rank treasure and it also happens to be the best mirror I have ever owned. Let them bite each other, I told it. Don't bother me. If this were my original realm, I'd have beaten all of them until their souls flew apart by now. But this modern world has too many fun things in it. A few small flaws don't matter. The mirror trembled slightly and let out a faint hum, the way it does. I picked it up and kissed it. I want to go to a modern world again next time. I want to have a good time. Remember to find me more interesting places. Start looking now. Then I put it away and opened the Xiao Corporation project file and worked until midnight. Because business, it turned out, was extremely interesting. And doing something I had never done before is the only reliable happiness I have ever found. Jiang Mei, meanwhile, sat with a phone in her hand feeling something she had not felt in 20 years of being a wealthy wife, which was direct contradiction. But here's the thing. She hated Lin Yan far more than she disliked me. What kind of thing was that girl? She wasn't even as good as the little toys Jiang Xing kept outside. No rules, no manners, climbing, without once looking at what she was worth. Then the driver brought Jiang Hao home and mentioned the phone situation. The phone rang again in Jiang Mei's hand. She had understood me perfectly. As long as that mother and daughter existed, Wei Ling would not come back. And it just so happened that her son was wavering, and this was the moment for a mother to give a push from behind. She had someone carry Zhang Hao upstairs. Then, without a word to anyone, she blocked every contact channel Lin Yan had on his phone. Then, an unknown number called him. She didn't need to think about who it was. She answered and said nothing. Zhao Li, why aren't you answering? Where are you? I can't find you. I'm worried to death. Jiang Mei hooked one side of her mouth. Miss Feng, is it? You've been blocked, and you still don't understand what that means? Opening your mouth with all that gentle worry. Are you bullying my son for not having seen many women? If this were Wei Ling, she would already be demanding to know what he was doing. Then, cold and flat. Miss Feng, only a legitimate partner has an equal status. Rats that cannot see the light will always have to bow and scrape. My Yi family will not raise rats, and Xiang Hao has promised us he's done playing around. Tomorrow he enters the company. If you're doing this for his own good, then don't disturb his work and distract him. If his first days are ruined because of you, I will not let off people with ulterior motives toward my son. You had better behave yourself. Then, she hung up, blocked that number too, had a servant put the phone by her son's bed, and sat down to work out how to clean up the mother and daughter, because I had raised the subject and she therefore had to demonstrate a position. Tell you, it is a very specific pleasure to watch a woman like that do half your work while thinking she's negotiating with you. Lin Yan stood in her bedroom looking at a phone that no longer connected to anything. Wang Hui knocked. What's wrong? Did you quarrel with young Master Scu? Madam, can you stop calling him young Master Scu? You're lowering our status. You have to remember you're his mother-in-law, his elder. You have to break the habit of standing a head shorter than people. Otherwise, how is he supposed to adapt to you? Wang Hui frowned. You're getting more temperamental every day. Can't you speak nicely? I'm your mother. Are you looking down on me now because I used to be a servant? Without me being a servant in the Zhou family, where would you have gotten the chance to wear gold and silver and meet Zhang Hao at all? Fine. I don't want to argue. Zhang Hao is being controlled by his parents. I have to find a way or everything falls through. Madam, have you found a place yet? Move out tomorrow. Do. Wang Hui's eyes went round. You're really driving me away? It isn't driving you away. Just endure a little during a critical period. When I marry into the Yi family, I'll buy you a big villa and hire 8 or 10 servants to wait on you. All right? I'm stressed enough. Stop adding to it. If I can't hold on to him, both of us end up with nothing. Wang Hui opened her mouth, looked at her daughter's face, closed it, and went to pack. And in her own room, alone, she finally did the arithmetic. A big villa. 8 or 10 servants. That was the life she had already had, in the Zhou family, where she did almost no work for years and had gotten soft and comfortable. And she traded it for a rented room, and she hadn't worked in years, and she didn't like washing or cooking or cleaning, and Zhang Hao wasn't giving the money. What had she been doing all this for? That is the first regret in this story, and I want to point at it, because it arrives before I have done anything at all. All I did was take the villa away. The regret grew there on its own. Lin Yan sat up all night with the phone in her hand. She had seen him chase after me at school with her own eyes. She couldn't reach him all day. By evening his mother was answering his phone. However she turned it, something had happened. She knew exactly how large the gap between us was. Her only advantage in the world was his true love. And she wasn't afraid of his family interfering. She was afraid of him wavering. Here's the thing she had not planned for. When she stood beside me, she knew everything. Every piece of gossip in that circle came to her because she was standing next to the person it happened to. Now, she had left me, and the circle had closed, and she had turned into an ordinary girl with no information at all. She said later that it felt like a sword hanging over her head. She couldn't sleep. She scrolled through her old messages with him to get any peace at all. I slept beautifully, thank you for asking. The weekend came, my mother's team had the full cooperation proposal ready, and the two of us went to meet Wang Jun for a final pass before the joint meeting. My mother had forgotten to close a window the night before and had picked up a small cold, and she was flagging. So after they went over the key points, she said, apologetically, President Wang, I'm a bit unwell. Is it all right if Wei Ling goes over the remaining details with you? He answered before she finished. Of course, Director Liu, if you're unwell you shouldn't have come in person. Please go and rest. There are no issues with this proposal. Do you need someone to take you back? No need, don't be so polite. I'm sorry about today. I had several meetings and made you wait for my schedule, and now it's evening and I'm struggling. I'll go back first and treat you to dinner next time. Director Liu, you're too kind, take care. I walked her to the car and watched the driver pull away, and then I checked my watch and turned around. President Wang, it's dinner time. I wonder if I have the honor of inviting you to eat. He accepted immediately, which was interesting. Does President Wang prefer Chinese or Western? Anything specific? Nothing in particular. Miss Li can choose. So I took out my phone and said with a completely straight face, then how about hot pot, or barbecue, or a street stall? I bet you've never eaten trending internet famous food. His eyebrows moved about 2 millimeters. He drank some tea. I indeed haven't. I showed him the photo of the restaurant I had already booked and laughed. I'm joking. How could I let President Wang go to those places in a suit to get stared at? Let's go. This place is very good. I went with my mom yesterday. He stood up and walked out beside me. And then, out of nowhere, he said, "You've been calling her Director Liu. I thought you wanted to avoid acknowledging the relationship. How could that be? She's my mother and I'm very proud of her. I just feel that calling her madam during work hours is a bit informal and might affect other people. Work's over now. We can relax. That's very appropriate. Sorry. I misunderstood you before." And I looked at him with genuine surprise because I finally saw what he'd been holding. Do you think I'm keeping my distance on purpose? Not at all. I enjoy every resource and the extremely high starting point my parents gave me. Those are good things. They saved me years of struggling at the bottom and let me learn deeper things directly. I would never say I wish I weren't their daughter just so people could see my own effort. Innate advantages are still advantages, and my effort is worth more because of them, not less. With a high starting point, my achievements should naturally be higher, and if I can't reach a level that makes people notice, it just means I have room to keep working. I don't care about any of that. We got in the car. I changed into flats and started the engine. President Wang, do you still see me as a child? Do you think that because I'm a sophomore who just started interning I haven't left the ivory tower? Don't misunderstand me. My mother has already decided I'm the liaison on this project, so you'll have to believe in my ability. Of course, I'll also do my best to let you see it. Then I will wait and see. He heard that entire speech and did not find it long-winded. He told me later that he found it bright and that he rarely curled the corner of his mouth for anybody. And that he had thought I was a girl still nursing the stubbornness of youth, and that he revised it that night. Permanently. At the restaurant, one of Shang Hao's friends was standing outside the private room next door, on a video call, looked up, said a word I won't repeat, and whispered into his phone. "Guess who I just saw? Your ex-fiancé. Look." Then he flipped the camera, and Shang Hao watched me walk into a private room, shoulder to shoulder with Wang Jin, laughing at something. A smile came off his face. "Are you sick? Why are you showing me this?" I said I'm not coming over. You guys eat. I'm busy. No way. Are you really turning over a new leaf and working hard? By the way, didn't you drink too much the other night and go looking everywhere for Wei Ling's phone number? She's right here. You're not coming? Hey, people said Wei Ling had transformed into a career woman and I didn't believe it. But seeing her with Wang Jun just now, the picture was quite harmonious. It seems they're both business elites. Huh? Why did he hang up? Zhang Hao sat looking at a dark screen with his mood on the floor and no idea why. Then he opened his photo gallery on purpose and found a picture of himself and Lin Yan cheek to cheek with sweet smiles and looked at it and waited to feel better. Nothing. Not even a ripple. So he kept scrolling and he went backward through time and he found a photograph of me in a rainstorm. Both of us soaked, taken a picture of me looking like a drowned cat and laughed at me, and I'd kicked him twice for it. And the one before that was my birthday, when I was dressed up and every boy in the room was looking at me, and he had grabbed a handful of cream off the cake and smeared it across my face, and I had grabbed him and hit him, and somebody else had taken the picture and sent it to him. That might have been the last time the two of them played around and enjoyed it. He sat in a private room in a restaurant and looked at photographs of a girl who was, at that moment, 40 meters away, having a very good evening with somebody else, and he began, slowly, to believe that she really did not love him anymore. He wiped his face, irritated, and could not have told you what he was doing. He clearly disliked her personality, so going separate ways was the best ending. Why was he getting more annoyed instead of less? On Sunday, the two companies held the project meeting. Liu Ji and Wang Jun each brought a team of their best people. I sat beside my mother as her special assistant and as liaison team lead for both sides, took detailed minutes, and kept a second blank document open for anything uncertain and anything either side had phrased inaccurately. Calls. The meeting ran 3 full hours. Near the end, my mother asked whether anyone had further opinions. I turned my laptop around and pushed it between her and Wang Jun. Director Liu, President Wang, I think there are a few places that need clarifying. She scanned it and looked at him. He nodded, so I put the document on the screen, stood up and walked the room through it point by point. There were over a dozen. Every one of them was the kind of thing that vanishes inside a big picture and then generates chaos on the ground during execution. The major issues had all been settled across several meetings over the previous weeks by people with decades of experience. Which meant that finding those particular dozen was in fact the only useful thing left to find. And it was exactly appropriate to my position, and a large number of team elites who had privately filed me as the boss's daughter changed their filing. We discussed them and resolved all of them. Then Liu Ji and Wang Jun signed the cooperation contract, stood up and shook hands, and the room applauded like a room that meant it. Special Assistant Wei has booked a restaurant and a karaoke place. Go relax. Tomorrow we start. Most of the attendees were young. They cheered, and as people were filing out, Wang Jun checked his watch and asked, politely, "Director Liu, are you attending Old Master Song's birthday banquet tonight? Shall we go together?" My mother hesitated. And I said, "Madam, are you still not feeling well? Don't go. Go home and rest early and I'll go in your place. The workload after this is heavy. Patriarch isn't back yet, and I still have homework, so you have to actually rest. I'll apologize to Old Master Song for you. Don't worry." She thought about it and nodded. "That's fine." President Wang. Gialing doesn't often attend business gatherings. In the past she mostly just came along as our daughter. "Could you help me look after her?" "Naturally I can. Director Liu, please rest. Your health is important." Which is how I ended up in a stylist chair beside Wang Jun 2 hours before the largest gathering of business leadership in the city, being told what I could not wear. Dirt. Old Master Song was a tycoon once. He's 80 now. The family business his children and grandchildren run has gone somewhat mediocre, but he still holds enormous prestige, and for his 80th every notable executive in the city would attend. Partly to give him face, mostly because a banquet like that is a trading floor with better food, and deals get made on the spot. I like red. The stylist told me not to wear anything that bright to a birthday banquet, because you do not outshine the host. So I went through the racks myself and pulled one out. How about this? Black, covered in crushed diamonds. I like it. You Miss Wei has great taste. That one arrived today. Din. Under the lights of a banquet hall, it'll look 10 times better than it does now. Sparkling, but low-key. Mysterious. Doesn't it make you think of a black swan? Noble, elegant. It's perfect for you. Then let's go with this one. Gowns are a question of who's wearing them. That's all a gown has ever been. Wang Jun and I both came with good raw material. So we made the stylist's evening easy, and because we were arriving together, he picked cufflinks and earrings as a matched set. Black diamond earrings. Black diamond cufflinks. One set, split between 2 people. I want you to remember that detail, because a very unhappy young man was going to count those stones from across a ballroom in about 90 minutes and understand everything. When I came out of the changing room, something moved in Wang Jun's eyes. Duh. The stylist froze for a second, pushed his glasses up, and said, "Young Miss Wei. That aura. Where is the black swan?" "This is a queen." The Yi family arrived 1 step ahead of us. They brought Zhang Hao along, because he was in the company now, and Zhang Hao brought a female companion. I need you to picture her. Pure style white gown, princess cut black curls, a crushed diamond hair clip, the complete innocent little princess, and a face about 50% similar to mine. Guests started murmuring near the entrance. "Is that Wei Ling?" I heard the 2 families called off the engagement. "It seems not to be Wei Ling. I remember she doesn't look like that, dear. But it's been a long time since I've seen the Zhou family's daughter." And then a young woman who went to my university heard them, took a couple of long looks and said, loudly enough, "That's not Wei Ling at all. That is clearly Wei Ling and the little nanny fused into one person." Her name was Mo Jing. The family was no weaker than the Yi family, so she was not afraid of anybody in that room, and she had the specific gift of saying the true thing in public. She took out her phone, opened a campus post, and showed it around. Wei Ling's aura has been getting stronger and stronger. How could she be that gentle, innocent type? This one. Lin Yan, the nanny's daughter Zhang Hao cheated with, who plays a soft little white lotus all day. Then what is Zhang Hao doing? His companion looks half like Wei Ling, and she's dressed like a white lotus. Does he mean he likes both of them? I think he's sick in the head. Don't talk about him, it's disgusting. He's called filthy bug at our school. Wei Ling despises him so much she won't even look at him. Don't be like that. We didn't know any of this, and we're extremely interested. Mo Jing, tell us more. And that's how 5 young women of substantial families ended up in a huddle at a birthday banquet, receiving a full briefing. Then the door opened again, and Mo Jing looked up and grinned. The main characters are here. Look. This is the difference between the genuine article and a fake. She's absolutely queen-like. Zhang Hao's dog eyes must have been blinded. I came in with my arm through Wang Jun's, and the room did something I found genuinely funny. They saw me first, then they noticed the man next to me was Wang Jun. That was the incredible part, apparently. Somebody standing shoulder to shoulder with Wang Jun and outshining him. Nothing like the kind of companion Wang Jun was expected to have. Sleeveless V-neck mermaid gown, black, seated with tiny diamonds. My auburn hair temporarily dyed black, straightened, falling smooth, tucked behind my ears to leave my face and the black diamond earrings exposed. The whole effect clean and sharp, and nothing whatsoever like a princess in a castle. Zhang Hao's expression changed the instant he saw me. His first instinct was to hide his companion so I wouldn't see her. His second thought, arriving about half a second later, was that I was no longer his fiancé and he did not need to consider my feelings at all. He told me afterward that the habit was inexplicable to him. 10 years of reflex, still firing at a woman who had blocked his number. He was also uncomfortable for a much simpler reason. He liked gentle girls. And the further I got from the picture in his head, the worse he felt. The host, General Manager Song, apologized to Zhang Xiang and came to welcome us, and did not recognize me either, so he greeted Wang Jun first, and then looked at me, puzzled. President Wang, this is young Miss Wei Xiang, the daughter of Chairman Xu and Director Liu of Dongfang Group. I smiled. General Manager Song, my mother is unwell today and cannot attend, so I'm here on behalf of my father and mother to offer birthday wishes. Please forgive any impropriety. So it's young Miss Wei. Young Miss Wei is too kind. Director Liu's health is important. Come, please, both of you. My father is inside with a few uncles. You should join them. He held his posture slightly lower than ours, because his family was already in decline and he had the sense not to pretend otherwise. We walked a few steps, and new guests arrived, so he excused himself, and Wang Jun lowered his head a little and said quietly, near my ear, "Nah. This General Manager Song is Old Master Song's third son. He's smooth and good at networking, but he has good character. He never kicks people when they're down. He's someone worth befriending." I turned my head and smiled at him. Is this a perk for beauties? President Wang wasn't so forthcoming before. Yes. Our faces were close enough that our breath mixed for a second. He looked straight ahead and said, evenly, I promised Director Liu I would take care of you. So that's all it is. Of course, it's also because I greatly admire young Miss Wei. Look at that. Watch a man with total control over his face lose a point in under 4 seconds. Dolly. I also greatly admire President Wang, I said, and we walked into the crowd, which ended the conversation, which was probably merciful for him. We presented our gifts to Old Master Song together, and then Wang Jun walked me around the room and introduced me to several of the most significant people in the business world, personally, by name, with context. The room drew a conclusion from that, and the conclusion was correct but not for the reason they thought. They decided the cooperation between Xiao Corporation and Dongfang must be extraordinarily smooth and close, because a man that aloof does not spend an hour sponsoring somebody's daughter. Looking at the two of us, more than one person made a private guess. Then Jiang Mei came forward, took my hand in both of hers, and smiled warmly. Diaoling, you've become so busy lately, you don't even have time to go shopping with madam. I finally get to see you today. I took a glass of champagne off a passing tray, which had the pleasant side effect of removing my hand from hers, and smiled at a polite distance. Mrs. Zhang, long time no see. Mrs. Zhang, do. Everyone who knew about the rift between the families was watching, and 2 words did the entire job. My position was now on the record, and the Yi family looked exactly as shameless as they were being, because the son cheated and the mother still walked up to me as though nothing had happened. Most people genuinely cannot do that. It takes a specific kind of training. Then the room noticed Sang Hao's companion, and the murmuring changed character. Bringing a woman who resembles your ex-fiancé by half to a banquet your ex-fiancé is attending. What is that, if not an attempt to make somebody sick? Wang Jun and I talked with Old Master Song for a while, then moved to the side, where people who wanted business with either of our families came to say hello. He kept introducing me. I did not acknowledge Zhang Hao once, from the beginning of that evening to the end. Not coldly. I simply treated him as a piece of the Yi family's luggage. He felt that more sharply than anybody. When he got closer, he saw clearly that my black diamond earrings and Wang Jin's black diamond cufflinks were a matched couple's set. He saw the two of us speaking with our heads close. He saw me laughing at something Wang Jun said, and he saw that Wang Jun, who was not laughing, had a face that was visibly softer than the one he showed the room. He said his chest felt like it was packed with wet cotton. So he stood at the edge and drank. Glass after glass. And here's the part that actually hollowed him out. I was the heir of Dongfang Group and Wang Jun ran Xiao Corporation. And there was a constant line of people wanting a minute with us. He was the heir of Yi Corporation. Nobody came over except a few rich friends to say hello, out of habit. Then he watched me walk toward the restrooms alone, finished his glass, and followed. He didn't even hear his companion calling him. He leaned against the wall outside, slightly drunk, and waited. And when I came out, he put an arm across my path. Wailing. Are you and Wang Jun together? I narrowed my eyes. Who gave you the courage to harass me again and again? He reached out to pull me. I saw it. You two are very intimate, and other people have seen you at restaurants with him more than once. You broke the engagement suddenly because you fell for him, didn't you? If you were the one who moved on, why did you accuse me of cheating? Why did you call me trash at school? I caught his outstretched hand and twisted it upward. He folded over instantly, eyes wide. Let go. Hurry up and let go. I flung him at the floor, put my foot on his chest, and set the point of a thin heel directly over his heart. Then I let a little of the real thing off the leash. Not much. A trickle. I warned you that was the last time, I said. Since you don't want to live, I'll grant your wish. I have killed a great many things. There is a particular pressure that comes off a cultivator who has decided, and human beings feel it in their spine before their brain gets involved. He broke into a cold sweat. He could not make a sound. He told me later that for that one instant he genuinely believed I was going to push down. I want to be honest about what happened in me too, because this is the closest I came to making a mistake in that world. I was not performing. For about a second and a half I was standing on a man in a corridor with several hundred witnesses 40 meters away, in a body with almost no spiritual chi, in a world with cameras in the ceiling and a legal system I hadn't finished reading. That's what 900 years of being the most dangerous thing in the room does to your reflexes. It is the only genuinely dangerous minute I had in that world, and the danger was me. Then Wang Jun came around the corner. I retracted my foot, smoothed my skirt, and said to Zhang Hao without any expression at all, I'm taking the Yi family's bid. Dadas, from now on, all projects of Yi Corporation belong to Dongfeng. Then I walked around him toward Wang Jun and put my harmless face back on. President Wang, are you looking for me? He glanced down at the man on the floor, bent his elbow so I could take it, and said, as we walked, you hadn't come back for a while, so I came to check. President Wang's concern is awkward. You could just say you saw that scumbag disappear and were a little worried about me. He curled his lips. He had seen the whole thing and he had not moved a muscle to intervene, and I want to point at that, because most men in that world would have. He watched me handle it. And then he came around the corner at exactly the moment I would want a reason to stop. It seems my worry was unnecessary. You can handle things yourself. Are you really going to steal Yi Corporation's bid? Of course. I originally didn't want to bother with them. I have a lot of things I want to do and I don't want to waste time. But they don't know any better and they insist on causing me trouble, so I'll deal with them first. I said it the way you'd comment on rain. He noted, later, that I never once considered the possibility of failing to destroy Yi Corporation. Then he leaned in. I just got internal news. Once the official documents are public, the bid Yi Corporation submitted will become a crucial project with extremely generous profits. I winked at him. Then let's join forces and rob them. We'll split the profits evenly. He looked at me from very close range and something lit behind the glasses, and he said, all right, we'll join forces. Behind us, Zhang Hao lay on a corridor floor with a hand pressed to his heart and could not get the fear out of his body. He said he didn't understand what he had been afraid of. I'll tell you what he was afraid of. He had just found out, in his nervous system rather than his head, that I did not love him, not the way you find out from a sentence. The way you find out from an animal. Extreme fear leaves a hole when it drains. He needed something to fill it. His companion found him, gasped at the state of him, and hauled him up, and he stood there holding her soft hand and staring at her face. You should be the one looking like this, he said. He woke up in a hotel the next morning, and the hangover vanished the instant he saw the woman beside him, and everything came back. The fear didn't. In daylight it looked like nothing. He'd been drunk and confused, that was all. She woke up too. He frowned and pushed her away. You can go. I'll talk to young Master Zhou later and get you a lead role. Thank you, young Master Xu. She dressed quickly and left, delighted. And I have no unkind word for her. She was the only person in that hotel room doing honest business. Then he stood under cold water with his mind coming apart. The first time he fell for Lin Yan he had struggled with it for a long time. Last night he had not felt 1 ounce of guilt toward her. He thought about how I had looked in that hall. He used the phrase a flower bud finding the right soil, which is more poetry than I'd have credited him with. He had thought he liked Lin Yan's gentle, watery personality. Standing there he understood that next to me she was plain water. Nothing wrong with it, nothing in it either. He had thought he wanted me to become gentle and compliant. He had just spent a night with a woman who was exactly that, wearing my face on purpose, and he had discovered that the compliant version had no soul in it, and that only the real thing could take a room apart by walking into it. He'd felt terrible when I ignored him. He'd been jealous when I smiled at somebody else. And he arrived, standing in a shower, at the conclusion that under everything he had always filed me as his wife and that had never changed, and he had walked down the wrong road, and the person he actually loved was Wei Ling. He punched the wall. Jin. His phone rang for several minutes straight, and it was his mother. You still have the nerve to ask what's wrong. Where have you been messing around now? I told you to coax Wei Ling and instead you ran off with some minor celebrity. Have you lost your mind? Every good word I lowered myself to say for you was wasted. And let me tell you, don't bring me trouble. I will never acknowledge that little nanny. He lay down on the bed and said, with real distress, Madam, I was wrong. The person I love is Wei Ling, but she won't turn back now. She's with Wang Jun. I'm incredibly annoyed. Please stop bothering me. Zhang Mei was delighted. Time. Can anybody compare to what you and Wei Ling built over more than a decade? Break it off with that little nanny or that minor celebrity immediately and properly coax Wei Ling. A persistent man can win over even the most stubborn woman. Keep at her and play the pity card and she'll come back. She said a great deal more, and he listened to all of it, and his confidence assembled itself out of his mother's nagging like a cheap shelf. He had always been the type who got what he set his mind on, regardless of anyone's opinion. He had insisted on breaking the engagement. Now, he simply wanted the passionate phase back. He didn't even go see Lin Yan. He called her, told her he didn't like her anymore, said the apartment was her breakup fee, and hung up before she could form a question, and then blocked her. which is when he discovered that his mother had already blocked her, days ago, on his own phone. He had not noticed. For days. He said that was the moment it stopped being a decision and became a fact. If she'd mattered, he would have noticed. Lin Yan spent 2 days in a rented apartment finding out that her worst premonition was accurate. She could not reach him anywhere, and then she broke everything in that apartment that could be broken. What use was an apartment? Didn't even come close to the house I'd had ready for her. She had betrayed me and taken Zhang Hao for exactly one purpose, which was to marry into the Yi family and become Mrs. Zhang. What else had she offended the Zhou family for? Then she remembered watching him chase after me in a parking lot, and she went and stood in that parking lot early the next morning and waited. I got out of my car and she was there, and the tears started before I'd closed the door, which is a genuinely impressive skill. Xiaoling, Yao Hao broke up with me. He said the apartment is my breakup fee. Do you know why? Xiaoling, I can't find him. I don't understand why he wanted to break up. Everything was fine last Friday. We'd even agreed to take a trip. I pushed her aside and walked past. The affairs of a scumbag and a cheap woman are the most disgusting things. Get lost. She staggered, caught up, and delivered the payload. Did Yao Hao come looking for you? I know he hasn't forgotten you. I'm sorry to you. I wanted to let you two be together, but I gave him everything. I might even be pregnant with his child. I beg you, don't take him back, don't fight me for him, okay? I stopped walking, I turned around. I took my sunglasses off and looked at her properly. So you're saying you're pregnant with Zhang Hao's child, and he dumped you? Yes, Yaoling. I know I've wronged you and I've always felt so much regret and guilt. But I belong to Yao Hao now. We haven't been using birth control, and I've been sleepy and nauseous these past few days. I'm probably already pregnant. I really can't lose him. Yaoling, you have everything. I only have Xiao Hao. I beg you, just let me have him. I really have no other choice. I'm sorry. You have to admire the construction. Yes. Every clause in that speech is a hook. It's an apology that establishes possession, a confession that implies my rejection, and a request that makes refusal into cruelty. So I reached out and took her chin and lifted her face and looked straight into her eyes. Do you know why Zhang Hao gave you a breakup fee? She didn't answer. It's because your servile appearance makes you look like a plaything, worth nothing more than a small apartment. You might be able to steal a man from me. You will never be able to steal my dignity or my status. Even if you were lucky enough to marry into the Yi family, you'd be a vine on somebody else's wall, spending your whole life pleasing a scumbag as his appendage, and you would never once find out what it feels like to be strong and free. Dish. That is the only thing I ever said to that girl that I meant as a warning rather than a hit. She didn't hear it that way. Nobody ever does. Then Zhang Hao's car came into the lot, and he was out of it and running over. What's going on, do? I shoved her face aside, took out a tissue, wiped my hands, and threw the tissue at his. Dog on a leash, I said. Don't forget what I told you. I wouldn't mind making the Yi family go bankrupt sooner. I walked away. He came after me shouting my name. She grabbed him and cried, Xiao Hao, did you see how she humiliated me? What is wrong with you? Why do you want to break up? Lin Yan, he pushed her off hard and frowned. What are you doing looking for Wei Ling? Don't tell me she came looking for you. This is a parking lot. What are you doing here when you don't even have a car? She looked at him hurt, and she tried the play again because it was the only place she had, and it had worked every time for a year. I wronged Wei Ling, so she has every right to humiliate me. I betrayed her and left the Zhou family for you. I have nothing left. You can't treat me like this. And he felt the pang. He genuinely did. And then, out of nowhere, he heard his father's voice in his head. Dale, people who'll put a knife in the Zhou family today will put one in the Yi family tomorrow. The pang went out like a match. Just consider that I've wronged you. I've already compensated you. I'll give you another 2 million. Don't pester me in future. That's it. She grabbed his arm. What if I have your child? Dad or Ijad? Get rid of it. He flung her arm off, parked his car, and went straight to the building where I had class. She hit the ground. He didn't look back once. And that, in a parking lot, at 9 in the morning, is where Lin Yan stopped being a girl running a scheme and became something with a genuine engine in it. She got up and decided that if she had beaten Wei Ling once, she could beat Wei Ling twice, and that she would be Mrs. Zhang. Now, 20 minutes into first period, I walked in late and told the teacher I'd been at the counselor's office. Lin Yan's heart skipped because she remembered the poster. Dear. 4 minutes after that, the counselor appeared in the doorway with a face like a closed door. Lin Yan. Come with me to the office. The room turned as one animal. First Wei Ling goes to the counselor, and immediately the counselor comes for Lin Yan. There is a connection. And the counselor is visibly furious, which means it's good. A classmate crawled under his desk and voice messaged a friend in another major to go find out what was happening. Everybody around him signed up for the results. In the office, Lin Yan found Zhang Hao already there, plus the director of academic affairs. Then the counselor pressed play. It was every word she had said to me in the parking lot. Clean, from beginning to end. She lunged for the phone. The counselor blocked her and made everybody in that room listen to all of it. The crying about being abandoned. The pregnancy. The birth control. The begging. Zhang Hao's face went dark. Didn't you say Wei Ling humiliated you? Why does it sound like you were pestering her? Which part of what you said is true and which is false? Then he grabbed her arm. Let's go. We're going to the hospital right now. I don't believe you're pregnant. All of you, stop. The director's voice went through the room like a ruler on a desk. With a matter like this, nobody is leaving until it's explained clearly. Call your parents here. The classmate outside the door widened his eyes, sprinted to a bathroom, and filed his report. The classroom detonated. The teacher knocked on the desk, twice, hard, and everybody went quiet and then read the same post under their desks. Lin Yan is pregnant with Zhang Hao's child, and better. Lin Yan was dumped, and she cried and begged Wei Ling not to fight her for the man. I was sitting in the middle row that day. The nearest classmate leaned over. Wei Ling. Is this true? You and Zhang Hao. Have you reconciled? Another one leaned in from the other side. Wei Ling, well done. Let that mistress cry herself to death. She snatched him. We'll snatch him back. I glanced at the post on their screens and said, without much interest, whether these things are true or false, the school will provide a result. Then I turned the page of my textbook. However, trash should be thrown into the trash can. I have no interest in touching it. It took them a couple of seconds, then they got it, and the whole row got it, and the class was finished as an educational event. The teacher packed up and left and told them to review on their own, which is a thing that teachers do when they're going to the counselor's office to complain. By the time both sets of parents arrived, the director's expression had gotten worse, because the thing had spread to the entire school. Students suspected of being pregnant, and suspected of trading her body for an apartment. If there was no severe punishment this time, the earlier warning became a joke, and after that nobody would take the school's authority seriously again. Wang Hui came running and ran directly into Zhang Mei downstairs. She said, Mrs. Zhang, out of reflex, and put her hand out. Zhang Mei looked at her hand the way you look at a fly on a plate, and kept walking. Upstairs, they made me come in, and they played the recording again with both mothers in the room. Lin Yan's face went scarlet. In front of Zhang Mei, every word was a brand. So she turned to me with her eyes full of water. Xiaoling, why did you record it? Did you do it on purpose? Everybody in that office looked at me. Because it's true that people don't normally walk around recording each other, and it is inevitable that they'd wonder. I nodded without one instant of hesitation. Yes, I did it on purpose. I was sitting back on the office sofa with my legs crossed and my arms folded, and she almost couldn't get her next sentence out because I was too matter-of-fact about it to argue with. You. I'm sorry, I know I did wrong, but how will this make people look at Zhang Hao? Director, it's all my fault. Alone. Please punish me alone. I ignored her entirely and spoke to the director. Director, over the past few days I've been reading up on the legal regulations for dealing with people who repeatedly disturb others. There's something called a personal restriction order that's very good. Unfortunately, our country doesn't have one. He blinked. So, on campus, can the school authorities keep these two people away from me? And then, because I wanted it on the record with the director listening, I started recording the moment I saw Lin Yan today. It goes without saying that she was going to say something hypocritical again. That recording is evidence of her harassing me. Director, I believe the school is also clear that anything between those two has long had nothing to do with me. I hope that while I'm studying here, I can have a decent learning environment instead of being endlessly harassed. Zhang Mei pulled her son to her side. Zhang Hao, hurry up and apologize to Xiaoling. How much trouble have you caused her? Was there anything here you couldn't have discussed? Privately after school? Mrs. Zhang, please do not say things that cause misunderstandings. Whether during school hours or in private time, I will not have any interaction with Zhang Hao whatsoever. I did not give that woman 1 gram of face. Then I picked up my bag and stood. Director, that is my stance. May I leave now? You may. Classmate Wei Ling, final exams are coming up. I hope you won't be distracted by these matters. The school will carefully consider your request. Thank you, Director. And I walked out through Zhang Mei shouting my name. What happened after I left is the part I enjoy most, and I wasn't even there for it. Zhang Mei, having failed to produce a reconciliation, discharged the entire evening into Wang Hui and her daughter. Airs. Mockery, insults with not one dirty word in them, which is a genuine skill and takes about 30 years of practice at charity luncheons. Wang Hui had felt inferior to that woman for a decade and didn't dare answer, so she just kept repeating that her daughter had ruined her reputation for Zhang Hao's sake and that Zhang Hao could not abandon her. One side haughty, the other weeping and applying moral pressure. Zhang Mei wanted to say something forgettable and leave before she lost face in a school office. Wang Hui would not let them leave. She kept insisting Zhang Hao take responsibility. And the more she talked, the more she implicated him, in front of a director of academic affairs, on the record. That was Zhang Mei's worst evening in years. She had walked in to manage a scandal and spent an hour being held hostage by a woman who used to bring her tea. The director's decision, when it came, was firm. Both of them, home for the rest of the semester. Come back only to sit final exams. The full disciplinary result arrived at dusk. Major demerits for both, on file, no classes for the remainder of the term. Disciplinary probation next semester. They were not to harass me in any form on campus, and one more mistake meant every offense combined and immediate expulsion. OSVO, the school also clarified, officially, that Zhang Hao and Lin Yan had broken up as a normal couple, that there were no improper dealings, and that there was no pregnancy. Because he dragged her to a hospital that same afternoon, and she was not pregnant at all. I never said I was pregnant, she told him. From start to finish, I only said it was possible. It was Wei Ling's recording that made people misunderstand. Didn't you say those things specifically so Wei Ling would misunderstand? You told her about the birth control. You did that to disgust her, didn't you? She started to explain again, and he cut her off, and this is where he crossed over permanently. I don't care how many excuses you have. In any case, you have successfully disgusted me. It's a good thing the house hasn't been transferred yet. Pack your things and leave. I cannot have improper dealings with you. Oh, and that 2 million is gone too. Don't come pestering me. When I think about the things you said before, I feel sick. Shoo. He was no longer looking at her for comfort, which meant for the first time in a year he was looking at her at all. And then he did the thing that finished her, which was arithmetic. He put the recording next to the version she'd told him to his face. And once you have two versions from the same person, you have a method. And once you have a method, you can run it backward. Every time in the past 2 years she had positioned herself between us. Every reconciliation she had engineered, every fight she had somehow been present for. He hated her with real force after that, and he never recovered the ability to look at her without seeing the machinery. She had a mouthful of insults ready and swallowed all of them because she had nothing left, and instead she pulled off the single best move of her entire career. She smiled. She wiped her face. She apologized. I know that no matter what I say now, you won't believe me. Today I did wrong. That day when I saw you chasing Wei Ling. I was so scared. And then your mother on the phone. Never mind. I couldn't reach you and I overthought everything. This morning when I heard you wanted to break up, I panicked and ran off and said a whole pile of nonsense to Wei Ling. Then, quietly. Now that I think about it, I'm ashamed of myself. I'm sorry, Yao Hao. I didn't expect it to blow up this big. I'll go back and move out right now, do. Actually, I'd already asked my mother to move out earlier. I wanted a world for just the two of us. There isn't much in the apartment anyway. And she gave him the sweet look he liked best. Rest assured, I won't pester you. It was me who destroyed the relationship between you and Yao Ling. I'm sorry to her. It's good that you two can reconcile. Goodbye. She looked at him for a long moment, as though carving her most beloved person into her heart, and then she walked away without turning around. Straight back. No attachment. From behind, honestly beautiful. In the taxi she was grinding her teeth with a face like a wall. But she looked back, and he was still standing there, because she understood him. She had stopped understanding me weeks earlier, but she never once misread him. Zhang Hao was a man who didn't know how to value anything he had, never saw the beauty in front of him, and only felt regret after losing it. He claimed to despise his parents' behavior. In fact, he'd learned it perfectly by osmosis. His insistence on true love was simply an excellent excuse for cheating, and it left him permanently lost about what he actually wanted. So she retreated in order to advance. At the exact moment he was tired of her and suspicious of her, she left with her most beautiful face on. And look at what she left behind in the record. Zhang Hao abandoned her to chase Wei Ling. Zhang Hao's mother blocked her and humiliated her. Wei Ling leaked a recording of her private affairs. She had made herself the biggest loser in the love triangle. On purpose. In one afternoon. So she decided never to come near me again, and to work only on Zhang Hao. That decision is the reason she lasted another 11 months. Meanwhile, at dusk, I got the counselor's call. Listened to the results, thanked her, and hung up. Then I waved the printout at the phone screen, where Wang Jun had been waiting on a video call for 4 minutes. How is it? Is my plan feasible? He had his hands clasped on his desk, dully. He looked at me through the screen for a moment and said, slowly, there are a few points that need changing. Come over here and we can talk about it. I just got a bottle of good wine. We can celebrate you getting a peaceful campus life. I rested my chin on my hand. President Wang, has anyone ever told you that you're very charming? Drinking with a woman at night. That's very dangerous. He lowered his head slightly, then, unhurried, he loosened his tie. Then he raised his eyes and asked, is young Miss Wei coming over? I want to note for the record that this man had figured out, from about 4 glances across 2 weeks, that I look at his ties, and that he then used it on me through a phone screen with a straight face. President Wang's kindness, I said. I certainly cannot let it go to waste. I ended the call and laughed at the document in my hands. Then I went to the closet and picked out a red slip dress. The straps were thin enough on my shoulders that they looked like they might give up at any moment, and the neckline went down far enough to be a statement, and the fabric moved when I did. Deck. I looked at myself from both sides in the mirror, put on red lipstick, and decided I was worth a bottle of wine that a man had gone to some trouble over. Then I found a small white shawl and tied it over my shoulders, which covered every bit of it and turned me into a fashionable young woman on her way to a dinner. I am not shy. I just enjoy a reveal. He lives at Yulong Bay, alone, because he does not like other people in his home. When I walked in, it was black and white and gray. Everything squared away, not one object out of position. I raised an eyebrow and walked a slow circle. President Wang, I've heard this style of decoration is called molest. Usually the owners who live in them are very rigorous and restrained. Are you like that too? He had the jacket and the tie off already, black shirt, top 2 buttons open, standing behind a bar pouring red wine into a decanter. And he said, with a very small smile, less is more. Restraint may just be, because there are deeper desires hidden inside. That really makes one want to explore. Young Miss Wei will have plenty of opportunities. He glanced at his watch. It's still early. While we wait for the wine to breathe, shall we revise the proposal? Reader, we revised the proposal. I took all of it seriously, asked a great many questions, invented hypotheticals, and made him solve them. And then the conversation drifted a long way from the project, which is what happens when two people enjoy each other's minds. He checked the time again. Then he leaned across me to pick up a folder on my other side, and his chest came close enough that it almost didn't. I caught a very faint, very clean scent of cologne, dear, which reminded me that I had come there for wine. He opened the folder and offered it to me. This is the latest bidding plan I formulated, plus the core content of the bid document. Take a look. I didn't take it. I turned sideways against the arm of the chair, tilted my head at the pages in his hand, and read it from about a centimeter away. He held the folder. I turned each page. Neither of us said anything, and the air did that thing, where every breath is doing more work than it should. I nodded, then looked up at him and said with 2 meanings, it's very good. I like it very much. At some point, his arm had gone along the back of my chair. Now, his other hand put the folder on the table, and the way he was propped there had me boxed in. He lowered his head, met my eyes, moved closer, and said quietly, it is my honor to be liked by young Miss Wei. And we came in slowly, and got to about the thickness of a sheet of paper. And my phone rang. Madam, darling, where are you? Your father's plane arrives in a little over an hour. How about we pick him up and then have a big dinner? Patriarch's coming back today? I looked at Wang Jun, who now had a face of stone. Sure, I'll go to the company and get you right now, and we'll go to the airport together. Okay, I'll wait. Drive slowly. I know, madam. I gave him an apologetic smile. Sorry, family time. I'll have to taste President Wang's wine another time. I'm leaving now. He buttoned his collar and stood up. I'll see you out. At the door, I looked back and smiled at him. President Wang, there are still many things I don't understand about this proposal. Let's have dinner another day. All right. He leaned against the doorframe with his arms crossed and watched me walk into the elevator without 1 second of hesitation. Then, according to a very tired special assistant who told me this much later, he went to the bar, poured 1 glass, swirled it, drank exactly 1 mouthful, put it down, walked back into the study, and convened a video conference that made his entire project team scream into pillows. DOS. I stopped at a shop on the way and changed into something fresh and neat, and put the red dress in a bag. My mother had dressed up meticulously and looked wonderful. Madam, you look so beautiful today. They say a short absence beats a honeymoon. Have you been missing Patriarch for a long time? We're an old married couple. What's there to miss? Den. She got in the car and opened her compact and touched up her lipstick. I have a feeling I might be a third wheel here. I should have found my own entertainment today. 2 people make a world for 2. 3 people make a reunion. Then she noticed the red dress in the bag. Did you go shopping? Doe. I had a date, so I dressed up. But as soon as I received the Empress Mother's summons, I came right over. I said it like a joke, so she took it as a joke, and assumed I meant a gathering with girlfriends. We picked up my father and the 3 of us went to the top floor of the tallest building in the city, where there is an open-air garden restaurant. Candlesticks of a dozen different heights on the table, with candles of a dozen different lengths. Beautiful plates, small garden around us, a violinist, a double swing, and the entire city laid out through the railing. I looked at all of it and said, honestly, this place is so suitable for a date. The romantic atmosphere is wonderful. My father cut into his steak and teased, Yao-ling, are you thinking about dating? Is there no atmosphere when you're with Madam and Patriarch? Of course there is. Being with Madam and Patriarch has a warm atmosphere. It's great. I poured wine for both of them, and got straight to what I actually wanted. Patriarch, did the negotiations go smoothly? When do you plan to start? Have you formed a team yet? Ding. The 2 of them looked at each other and laughed and shook their heads. This child is becoming a workaholic. If the company really goes to her, she'll be too busy to eat with us. No, we can't let her take power this fast. Let her be a little assistant for a few more years. Indeed, we shouldn't give her too much work. I didn't realize she loved working this much. She stays up later than I do. When I get to the office in the morning, she's already brewed my tea and organized the documents. My father put down his knife. You are deliberately showing off our daughter. Yelling. You've been with your mother for a while now. Come, be patriarch's assistant. Styles are different. You'll learn more switching back and forth. Hey, how can you poach my talent right in front of me? She's our own daughter, do I need to poach her? I put my head down and ate quietly and let them enjoy themselves. And here is the internal comment, which I offer as an authentic report from a person who was, at that exact hour, an enormous third wheel by her own doing. A moment of passion is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. How vast a gold mine had I just given up to sit here? The poaching debate produced no result, so nothing changed and I got to participate in whatever I liked. And they gave me the kind of trust that isn't about ability. It's the other kind. When it came around to work, I said, Wang Jun and I plan to join forces and win the Yi Corporation bid. Send you the proposal tomorrow. I'd like to form a small team of my own to work with Xiao Corporation. My father paused. Why are you taking the Yi family's bid? Did they give you trouble? If anything happens, tell Patriarch. Patriarch will deal with them. Patriarch, let me practice. The Yi family keeps looking for trouble and harassing me. Since I don't like them, it's a perfect opportunity to put what I've learned into practice. My mother nodded once decisively. Fine. Tomorrow I'll pick an office for you and you can select people. But how is this connected to Wang Jun? Why did he agree to join forces with you? So I explained it simply. He overheard me warning Zhang Hao. He knew I wanted the bid. He said he had insider information that the project was highly profitable and proposed we go in together. I thought it was excellent. He provided a great deal of information and I can learn a few tricks from him. We split the profits and share the risk. We can't swallow a cake the size of E Corporation alone, so splitting it with Xiao Corporation is exactly right. My father raised an eyebrow. President Wang voluntarily proposed joining forces with you. He obtained insider information and could easily win that bid alone. There is no reason to share the fruit with us. Then he considered it from a man's point of view and said, seriously, cooperation is one thing, but be careful when you interact privately. Don't let anybody bully you. There is no free lunch in this world. Think everything through carefully. Pallied was impossible. Completely impossible. And in all likelihood the outcome would be a gain of both the person and the profit. President Wang had looked extremely good in that black shirt. I really did want that glass of wine, so I became an independent project manager and simultaneously the liaison between my mother's project and Xiao Corporation, and I became, abruptly, very busy. I got my own office on the top floor with the two of them. It was not big, which suited my position, but a person who'd been at the company for weeks running a project alone invites talk, and there were far too many employees for my parents to silence. And then I was busy selecting team members, and busy in meetings, and busy running work on 2 projects, and also going to class and reviewing for finals in 4 subjects. I ran like a spinning top from morning to night and I completely forgot about the wine. Even when I occasionally video called Wang Jun, it was work, and there was not 1 gram of ambiguity in it, because I had a Gantt chart in my head and no room for anything else. Brings us to the funniest thing that happened to me in that world, and I did not find out about it until it was over. On one particular day, after being hung up on by me again, Wang Jun called in his secretary and said, coldly, meeting in half an hour. I want the latest project materials. Everyone must propose changes to the original bidding document content. Jiqi, make a more complete plan tonight. We'll have a large meeting with Dongfeng tomorrow. Contact young Miss Wei's assistant and schedule a time for both sides. Understood, President Wang. I'll handle it immediately. The secretary left, posted a picture of a giant block of ice in the secretary's group chat, and relayed the order. The entire floor felt dread. They could not work out what had happened to him. He had turned into a workaholic and was pouring enormous passion into a small project. They could not understand why he cared about this small project more than the large joint project with Dongfeng. Holding meetings every few days, being unbelievably strict, forcing all of them into overtime and overtime. The project team racked their brains and picked the bid document apart looking for defects, which was genuine nitpicking, because it was a good document. At the meeting they felt the cold coming off him, and they cautiously presented the bones they had managed to pick out, braced for a scolding. And he nodded with satisfaction. He tapped the table. Ding, we are meeting with Dongfeng Group tomorrow. Offer more opinions and strive to make this document perfect. A project bonus will be given for finding important issues. Dismissed. After he left, they sat looking at each other. Somebody joked, could President Wang have called this whole meeting just to meet with Dongfeng? Everybody laughed. Nobody suspected a thing. Tan brought our teams together the next day. He looked at me and his first words were, has young miss been very busy lately? Incredibly busy. Fortunately finals are coming and after that I won't have to go to school. Our project is also nearing the bidding stage, so I'll try to dedicate more time to it. Dap. By the way, is there an issue with the bid document? He gestured for me to sit beside him and signaled his team to begin. They take this project very seriously and hope for perfection, so they've picked out a few minor issues. It's nothing major, but take a listen. So the Shao Corporation project team began, one by one, to present their findings. Dean. I listened extremely carefully, and about 4 minutes and something started to itch. Because they were minor issues. Genuinely minor. 3 emails and 1 phone call between 4 people would have settled every one of them. Why was there a large meeting? I turned to look at him and met a very deep gaze, and he said, "Lo, does young miss have something on your mind? Why don't we go to the tea house next door to talk?" Sure. He stood up. Discuss it among yourselves. Clarify all the details. We'll adjourn in an hour. And the 2 of us walked out of a meeting of 40 people and both teams stayed behind diligently going over a bid document, still hoping for a bonus. In the private room I pushed my hair to one side, dropped back against the sofa, propped up my head, and looked at him. Resent. Wang. Are you deliberately increasing my workload? In the time it took me to come out for this meeting I could have gotten so much done. He took off his jacket, rolled up his sleeves and started brewing tea. Young miss is too hard to schedule. I looked at him, and I got it, all at once, and I want you to appreciate how enjoyable the next 30 seconds were for me. President Wang, you're busy with 1,000 things a day, and rumored to be a workaholic. And now you've put your work aside and gone to enormous lengths to trouble a great many people. Is it just for a date? President Wang, aren't you neglecting your proper duties? I have always known what my proper duty is. Then he held the cup out to me, didn't take it. I glanced at the tea, then at him. His lips curled. He stood, sat closer, and brought the cup to my mouth. I leaned in and drank the tea out of his hand and looked up at him and said, President Wang's tea tastes better than anyone's. I imagine President Wang's red wine is just as good. He glanced at his watch and said, seemingly to himself, it's still possible to book a restaurant now. I wonder if young miss has time to have dinner with me. After dinner, we could taste that bottle from last time. And I opened my mouth to say yes. And my phone chimed. A message from Xu Ming telling me to come home as soon as the meeting was over, because he was cooking a big meal himself for me and my mother tonight. I did not hide the screen. He was sitting beside me. He saw all of it. When I looked up, the small smile was gone from his face. I had to work to keep mine off. Sorry, President Wang, it's family time again. My dad is going abroad in a few days, so he requires me home for dinner every night. He carried his teacup back to his original seat and brewed more and said, it's fine. Family is important. Then offhand, does young miss have a curfew at home? That explains why you can't attend many social engagements. I watched his face with great composure. I wouldn't call it a curfew, but I don't really like social engagements. I'm busy every day, so I don't attend unnecessary gatherings. Actually, it's nice to relax occasionally. Balancing work and rest improves efficiency. He might as well have written the words on the table. Unfortunately, I answered the sentence he said instead of the sentence he meant. I don't need rest. Labor is enough for me. I wasted so many years before and now I have to make up all of it. There's still so much I want to learn. I want to note that this was completely true. I was 2 months old. He raised an eyebrow a fraction. You want to learn business? Chairman Zhu and Director Liu are excellent seniors, but perhaps my ideas are more suited to young people, and more suited to you. When young Miss Wei has time, I can share my experience with you. All right, when I have time, I'll definitely ask President Wang for advice. Just don't find me annoying when the time comes. Ding. We sat in that tea house talking, and it was easy and comfortable, and I enjoyed it more than the dinner I was going home to, and I did not examine why. When the subordinates finished their meeting, they messaged us. He said, with a small amount of visible regret, let me take you back. I sent my own car home with my assistant and got into his. On the way, I asked him about funny things from his university days. That silent man told me a great deal and made me laugh repeatedly, and I have thought since then that the reason I liked him is very simple. He was not trying to be interesting. He was interested. We reached the villa, and he looked at the gate, and his fingers tapped the steering wheel once. If young Miss Wei has any questions about work, you can come to me. I'm very happy to answer them. Video calls like before are very convenient. I bent forward and unbuckled my seatbelt. Have you ever dated a girlfriend, President Wang? He pursed his lips. Then he turned his head and looked out the window. No. So I reached over, took hold of his tie, and pulled him around to face me. President Wang, have you fallen in love with me? You'll have to try it to find out. His arm came around my waist and he lowered his head, slowly. Wei Ling. That shout came from outside the car, from about 4 meters away, at maximum volume, and it was Zhang Hao. Wing Zhen's face went to absolute zero and he turned a look on that window that would have gone through sheet metal. And I collapsed into his chest, laughing until my stomach hurt, because that was 3 separate interruptions. My mother, my father, and my ex-fiance, in that order, at that exact distance, 3 times. Some kinds of luck are an art form. He was still looking coldly out the window with his arm tightening around me, and he said into my ear, is it that funny? Perhaps I should kidnap you to a private island. Then nobody would come to disturb us. I pushed him off, still laughing. We can go if there's a chance. But you'll have to wait until I'm done being busy. I'm leaving. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and asked, "Do you need my help?" "No need, Dad." I got out with a smile still on my face and turned and waved at him. "Goodbye. President Wang, work hard and don't neglect your proper duties anymore." He backed the car up a few meters. He did not leave. I turned around and looked at Zhang Hao with what I want to stress was genuine curiosity. "What are you angry about?" He stared at me. What am I angry about? Wei Ling, you're already together with Wang Jun this fast? No. Wonder Xiao Corporation suddenly teamed up with Dongfang Group to snatch my family's bid. You. Stop. I waved a hand and looked him over from shoes to hairline. Are you a kindergartner, or some kind of monster that can't understand human speech? Didn't I take your family's bid because you were harassing me? If you keep going, I will keep taking things until Yi Corporation goes bankrupt. If you don't believe me, you can try. Also, who I am with is none of your business. Stay away from me. I have no interest in talking to you. I walked around him. He reached out to grab my arm on reflex and I caught his fingers and bent them backward until he went down on one knee on the pavement with his features rearranged. Wei Ling, let go of me. I threw the hand away. It seems you only remember the food and not the beating. Then I'll beat you until you don't dare move. Behind me, Wang Jun let go of his car door and sat back down. He told me later that he had gotten halfway out and then remembered that he had watched me do that exact thing to that exact man in a corridor at a banquet. And decided his concern was surplus to requirements. Zhang Hao held his hand and said, irritated, "Wei Ling, can you listen to me finish? I've already broken up with Lin Yan. All of it was instigated by her. I came to find you just to say that I hope you can forgive me and we can start over. If I didn't like you, do you think I'd let you beat me several times without settling the score?" I had zero curiosity about this man and zero interest in his feelings. So I gave him the only true thing I had. I don't have a hobby of recycling trash. It is impossible for me to have any further connection with you. If you can understand human speech, you'd better go back and keep a close eye on Yi Corporation as soon as possible. I am not joking about letting it go bankrupt. Then I waved at Wang Jun down the road and walked into the villa. He shouted after me, "Wei Ling, I won't give up, Jay. I don't believe you're this heartless. I'm going to start pursuing you again." A member of the staff in the courtyard asked, startled, "Young miss, what happened to young Master Sko?" I shrugged. He's probably watched too many brain-dead dramas. He thinks he's chasing some ignorant, innocent flower. If he appears again, have the guards chase him away. Yes, young miss. He stood out there a while longer and then turned to find Wang Jun and discovered Wang Jun had driven off the moment I went inside. And then he did the thing that men like him always do, which is build a theory that lets him keep his self-image. He decided that I did not actually understand any of this. That I was being used by Wang Jun. Because why else would Xiao Corporation get involved in a bid that a girl wanted for personal reasons? Obviously Wang Jun was exploiting the situation, getting close to me to extract Dongfeng's resources. Also he regretted his tone. He had planned to be gentle and explain properly. And then he had watched a man almost kiss me and detonated. His father called to ask how the talk went. She won't talk to me, she's still angry. And with Wang Jun beside her, how could she be willing to listen? When she was with me she never paid attention to other guys. Solve the trouble you caused yourself. Company matters are not a joke. The bidding is about to start. Convince Wei Ling to give it up, dear. Fine. I know what Wei Ling likes. I'll win her back and then everything's fine. Even if she wins the bid, we're still family. Patriarch, stop nagging. From the bottom of his heart he did not believe I would cut ties forever. Even if he had broken my heart, there were over 10 years between us and I had always loved him so much. As long as he lowered his stance and sought reconciliation sincerely, could Wei Ling really not forgive him? He was very confident. It was, he thought, just a matter of time. So the campaign began. He was barred from approaching me on campus, so he waited outside the gate in the sports car. The first time, he stepped into the road in front of my car and presented me with an enormous armful of bright red roses. I looked at him through the windshield, put my foot down, and drove directly at him. He got out of the way, Jane. I went past him without slowing by a single kilometer per hour, and I watched the petals come apart across my mirror. He kicked a tire and then called and ordered another bouquet delivered to Dongfeng Group. After that it was daily. Flowers to the school. Flowers and afternoon tea to the company. Every person in both buildings knew the Yi family's young master was pursuing the Zhou family's daughter again. I accepted nothing. All of it went to my classmates at school and the employees at the company, which meant that for about 3 weeks a corporate heir personally funded the snack budget of 200 people who thought he was a joke. On the day of finals, Lin Yan came in to sit her exams and saw how devotedly he was chasing me, and the jealousy went through her like current. She was restless the whole paper, and she had not studied in weeks, and she performed miserably. She looked across the room at me. I was answering questions, calmly, completely unaffected. And she could not work out how we had traded places. Before, She was always the one watching coldly, occasionally dropping a sentence into sow discord and provoke a reaction. Now, whatever they did, I stayed level, and they came apart every time. She wrote it down as a law of physics, and she was right about it. Whoever cares is the one who can be moved. Tessid, the person who doesn't care is always the one who stays detached. She stopped approaching Zhang Hao after that. She simply arranged to be seen by him. Accidentally. Repeatedly. Never pestering, never disturbing us. The counselor watched him park outside the gate again after exams and shook his head. A university is a small society. Teachers don't really manage students. Rules exist, and as long as things aren't excessive, everybody looks away. The problem was that the love triangle had become too large. People discussed it on and off campus. The story about trading a body for an apartment had gotten out, and although the school had clarified it, do students believe clarifications? And I had stated more than once, formally, that I was being seriously harassed and had requested discipline. Repeated violations. School-wide impact. No correction. It is difficult for a university to expel anybody. It is not at all difficult for a university to recommend that a student voluntarily withdraw. Grades came out quickly. I ranked first in my major. Lin Yan scraped a pass and narrowly avoided failing subjects. But the campus took it as a verdict from heaven. Good people rewarded, mistress punished. Somebody dug up the old post where I told 2 people not to disturb my studies, and a chain started underneath it, dozens of comments long. Falling in love is not as good as studying. For a while that semester, the phrase study hard and make progress every day came back into fashion at a university, sincerely, as a meme, and I consider that one of my finest accidental achievements in any world. For Lin Yan, it was the worst thing that had happened yet. She hadn't expected her grades to be that low. She'd probably been distracted and gotten wrong even the things she knew. And the top student persona was the one thing she had built entirely with her own hands. Now she'd been overtaken by me and the whole school was watching the original partner crush the mistress. On the eve of the holiday, the school and several partner companies held a joint internship fair. The companies set up interview stations in the auditorium, and students walked around with resumes and signed up. Lin Yan went specifically to be seen. She was occasionally staying in her dormitory again, and a girl there asked her, "Are you going for an interview?" "No, I already passed the interview for Lishan Group. I'll be a manager's assistant there for the summer." "Gee, that's impressive," the girl said, and then took her friend and went to look at other companies without wanting to talk further. But people nearby heard, and looked at her a few times, and one girl who had just been rejected said quietly, "So what if she was a mistress? So what if she failed her exams? She's still interning at a globally renowned enterprise. Dear, I even mocked her before. Ha, I might never compare to her my whole life. Don't worry about her. We could never do what she did. I just find it ridiculous." Everybody said Wei Ling counterattacked and celebrated on the forum, and said the result was satisfying. Who knew that isn't the result at all? The result is that Lin Yan is still glamorous. Then. How do you know Wei Ling isn't even more glamorous than her? Look. Isn't that Wei Ling? Student council members were leading another company into the venue. People asked around. It was a newly added company. Dongfang Group. Every head in that auditorium turned because Dongfang Group is Wei Ling's family company. I came in ahead of 4 of our employees in a suit with my hair in a low ponytail and heels, and in a room full of green students I looked, apparently, like somebody who had crossed their finish line a long time ago and gone on to enter the next race. They watched me sit down. Our people set up the banner behind me, and printed across it in large letters was the fact that Dongfang Group would recruit 100 interns at this school, with excellent terms. Dongfang Group is many times the size of Lishan Group. Dongfang Group does not take interns. Nobody in that auditorium had ever considered it a possibility. The booth filled up in about 90 seconds. My classmate got to the front and asked, embarrassed, "Wei Ling, are you in charge of recruitment? Did you ask Dongfang Group to come to our school?" "I did," I said. "I want to build my own team and cultivate and absorb fresh blood. The teaching quality here is very high and a lot of our classmates have great potential. So the first place I thought of was our school. This time it's only summer interns. I've set up different positions to train them, so anyone interested should sign up." "Thank you, Wei Ling. This opportunity is great. I want to sign up. I want to be on Wei Ling's team. I'm signing up too. I'll definitely learn a lot from these positions." So touching. I just love Wei Ling's personality. And now I'm going to tell you exactly why I did that, because I do not want to be given credit I have not earned. Those classmates had been extremely good to me. They had mocked Zhang Hao and Lin Yan by every available method, nailed them both to a pillar of shame on their forum, and after the warning was posted they had taken it upon themselves to supervise the no-contact order for me. 200 volunteer enforcement officers. That made my life comfortable. So they got 100 internships. Kindness in my hands is a transaction with a visible return. I am not a nice person. I am a person who settles accounts, and I settle them in both directions, and if you make my life easier I will make yours substantially better, on purpose, in public, so that everybody watching understands the exchange rate. 4 employees handled registration and first-round interviews. Dead. I did the second review myself, on the spot, and everyone who passed got a temporary work badge and onboarding materials right there at the table. I kept a faint smile on the whole time and I was, apparently, completely unlike the person who had been chatting 5 minutes earlier. The line lowered its voice on its own. Then a girl came through the first round and sat down in front of me. I read her resume and the first round evaluation, looked up at her, closed the folder, and said, "Not passed." Next, she frowned. "Why? You haven't asked me anything, Jen. I remember you once suspected my supercar was a breakup fee from Zhang Hao. Spreading a malicious rumor without verification is a matter of character. Dongfang does not need such employees." Her eyes went wide. "That was so long ago, Wei Ling. At the time I didn't know you were richer than Zhang Hao. And besides, many people were guessing that. The many people you're describing won't be able to enter Dongfang either. Dongfang cultivates talent, only talent with good character." Then I glanced at the security guard by the door, and he came over and asked her to leave. A classmate whispered, "That's a bit much, isn't it?" At the time nobody knew the inside story, too. And the girl next to her rolled her eyes. "If you don't know, don't talk nonsense." She deserved to be rejected for saying that. I think Wei Ling is right. It's a matter of character. If somebody spreads gossip at the slightest sign of trouble in a company, doesn't that affect everybody else? That's true. Wei Ling is so strict. Look at this one now, she's testing business English. I won't get in. Strict is good. With screening that strict, you'll definitely learn real skills once you're in. While they were talking, I rejected a boy, and he demanded to know why. I said, casually, "Because you insulted me, and I'm not happy." He had said publicly that flies don't bite seamless eggs, that it was my own fault for not keeping an eye on my man, and that I deserved to get him stolen. He went red. "You are abusing your power for personal revenge. Nobody recruits like this." I shrugged. "It's my company. Why can't I recruit like this? I initiated this recruitment. I'm the one who wants the talent. Whoever makes me unhappy has no chance. It's that simple. Please leave." He wanted to keep arguing and got escorted out. The venue went quiet, and somebody said, admiringly, "Empress Lei is so domineering. She really isn't the gentle soft type. This is the true nature of Empress Lei." What was that touching vibe at the beginning? I love it. I love it. I must succeed in the interview. Following Empress Lei means eating meat. Think about that multi-million property she almost gave Lin Yan. If I can't be her best friend, being her subordinate is fine too. Yes, be her subordinate. Hey, what happened to that multi-million property? I know about this. My relatives saw it. There's a 10 million donation from Wei Ling on the charity list. I specifically asked. That property sold for 9.6 million and Wei Ling rounded it up to donate. That landed like a dropped plate. 10 million yuan. Donated. And every person in that room knew it had originally been earmarked for one specific girl. And they all remembered her at the same moment, and looked around, and found Lin Yan standing far off at the entrance, apparently about to leave. 4 minutes earlier some of them had been thinking that interning at Lisheng put her ahead of most of them. Now they looked at her and saw somebody who had just lost 100 million, with the word depressed written across her from a distance. What use was Lisheng? Could it compare with entering Dongfang and becoming Wei Ling's right hand? What use was taking Zhang Hao? Could it compare with 10 million donated on a whim? And then they made the comparison that finished her socially, and they made it kindly. Which is worse. They realized they could not measure Lin Yan against themselves. Starting point had been far above theirs. They were at least climbing, slowly, upward. She was on a downward road even if she entered Lisheng. The ones who had envied her 3 minutes earlier could not find any envy left. And some of them, inexplicably, began to feel sorry for her. Lin Yan had been unusually sensitive to other people's liking since childhood. She had come to that venue because she had been suffocating for weeks and wanted to stand in a crowd and be envied. She got about 2 minutes of it before I turned every one of those gazes into ridicule and pity. She hated being ridiculed. She hated being pitied far more. And walking out of that auditorium, she arrived at the only conclusion she had left, which was that the person she hated most in the world was Wei Ling, who had caused all of it. She could not win against me in anything. From childhood, no matter how hard she worked or how excellent she became, she was always in my shadow. Wasn't it just because I had a better background? I had possessed from birth the things she could not obtain in a lifetime of struggle. She was jealous. She dreamed of marrying into a wealthy family, and who would marry the daughter of the Zhou family's nanny? Only Zhang Hao. Childhood acquaintance. 10 years, the wealthy family she was most likely to actually reach. She had finally captured his heart and it had been ruined by Wei Ling. Wei Ling, she decided, was born to be her nemesis. I want to be very clear that she was not entirely wrong. I did do it. Did it on a Tuesday, at a folding table, in about 11 seconds, twice, without raising my voice, and I did not think about her once afterward. That is the part she could never survive. Not the loss. The scale of the attention it cost me. Toward the end of the fair, Mo Jing came over with a phone out and a curled lip. Wei Ling, Yang Hao has loaded another car full of flowers and he's waiting for you at the door again. Why don't you leave through the back? He's so annoying. I looked at the post and smiled. Thanks, don't worry about him. She thought about the day I nearly hit him with a car and laughed. That's true. He's always so furious with you. Do you have time day after tomorrow? I'm hosting a party for my birthday. Do you want to come? Have some fun and meet more people? The Yin family business was roughly the size of the Yi family business, and most of her guests were second-generation heirs from that circle, some of them already being groomed to take over. Dalius. I thought about it, decided familiarity might lead to future cooperation, and said, I'll be there on time. Happy birthday in advance. She lit up. Thank you, that's great. I'll go tell them, they'll be thrilled. You don't know this, but you're a role model in all of our hearts right now. We all like you very much. You are very cute too. She turned scarlet, covered her face and ran. That's cheating. You can even flirt with women. The students nearby fell over laughing, and I shook my head and stood up to pack, and one of our employees asked, Young Miss Wei, are you heading back to the company? I glanced at a message on my phone. No, someone is coming to pick me up. Here's the tableau at the school gate. Zhang Hao, in a red convertible sports car, filled to the seatbacks with red roses, parked where nobody could miss it, leaning against the door in a pose. And a black Maybach pulling in slowly on the other side of the gate. He noticed it. The windows were tinted, so he couldn't see in. And he didn't think about it because he was concentrating on standing correctly. During this stretch, my rejections had actually made him more persistent. He said he'd even recovered the feeling he'd had years earlier when he was actually in love with me. I came out with a group of classmates. He straightened up and smiled. Xiaoling. Today is our 15-year anniversary of knowing each other. Shall we grab a meal? And the Maybach's driver got out and opened the rear door. Every classmate turned to look, because that car is the kind that carries people who decide things, and nobody could imagine what it was doing at a university. Yang Jun got out. He buttoned his jacket, walked over to our group, stopped, and said, Xiaoling, I'm here to pick you up. Xiaoling. He had called me Young Miss Wei for 2 months. Not once, in any tone, had he used my name. I was startled for about a second. And then I looked at his completely aloof face and could not stop myself laughing, and I hooked my arm through his and said, Have you been waiting long? Let's go. Somebody in the crowd found the courage and shouted, Wei Ling, is he your boyfriend? Both men looked at me. I curled my lips. Yes. Isn't he handsome? Dayan's. Handsome? So handsome? 200 people cheered. Wang Jun's eyes and brows softened and the corner of his mouth went up, and he was in a spectacular mood, and he was doing an extremely poor job of hiding it. He led me toward the car, and Zhang Hao stepped in front of us with a cold face. Are you really with him? Cheer. I looked at him puzzled. Is there any doubt about that? He looked at Wang Jun, then back at me. Then he ground his teeth and said, You really won't give me even the slightest chance? I thought I'd shown enough sincerity these past few days. Then he took a breath and softened his voice, and delivered the line he had clearly been rehearsing for a week. Jialing. Today is the 15th anniversary of our acquaintance. I've prepared for a long time. Please give me one more chance. Let's just pretend we're starting over and getting to know each other again today. I will never let you down again. Wang Jun's arm tightened very slightly. I felt my hand get squeezed. And I laughed, because he had picked the worst possible frame. Zhang Hao. Such a terrible day doesn't need an anniversary. If we were to start over, I would definitely wish that I had never known you. He opened his mouth. Besides, I already have a boyfriend, so naturally nobody else has a chance. Including you. I have no interest in being ambiguous with people. Then I reached up, took hold of Wang Jun's tie, pulled him down, went up on my toes, and kissed him on the mouth in front of the entire school gate. Lips touched and parted instantly. I left a very small mark of lipstick on him, which made him look extremely good, and I was delighted with my work. Dats, let's go, I said. Time is short and we have many things to do. We walked around Sanghao and got into the car. His mind, he told me later, was entirely occupied by the phrase, many things to do. And before he could pursue that thought into a sentence, he was blocked by campus security, who had been summoned by the classmates. That is why I liked those children. They were pure and they were cute and they had absolutely no mercy. The driver pulled away toward the restaurant. Wang Jun sat down beside me with a serious expression and raised the partition between the front and back seats. I tilted my head at him and asked a question I already knew the answer to. What is this for? He met my eyes with something faintly on fire behind them and said, low and slightly rough. What does young Miss Wei think? Not calling me Jiaoling anymore. I took hold of his tie again, smiling, leaned in, pinned him against the seat back, and stopped with our mouths almost touching. President Wang, call me Jiaoling again, I like hearing it. He looked at me. Then he reached into my bag, took out my phone, and put it in my hand. Turn it off. I stuffed it back and laughed. That won't do. If you don't call me that, I'll go to work. The rest of that sentence did not survive. Duh. His hand went behind my head so I couldn't pull away, and along the way I could not tell you how many times the word Xiaoling came out of him. That driver had been with him for years and had never once seen him with a girlfriend. He drove very steadily. He also drove in a large circle around the city, silently giving his boss as much time as could reasonably be arranged. When Wang Jun's hand found the zip at the back of my dress, I pushed him off slightly and asked, a little short of breath, "Are we at the restaurant yet? I have a meeting this afternoon. I need to get back early." He took my hand and kissed the back of it. "Postpone it. Come to my place." "No, I have a meeting." I turned my hand over and touched his face and then leaned up and kissed him to take the sting out, and said, "Be good. Hurry to the restaurant and eat, I'm already hungry." He held my eyes for 3 seconds. Then he conceded, took a deep breath, sat up, and tapped the partition. To the restaurant. The car returned to the correct road. I straightened my dress and took out a compact and repaired my face, and in the mirror I could see him sitting there with his glacier reassembled. So I picked up the tie from the seat beside me and lifted it at him. "Come here, I'll help you tie it." His expression did not change. His body moved right over and lowered its head cooperatively. I wiped his mouth with my thumb and laughed. "If other women saw you like this, they'd probably go crazy." He looked at me very steadily. "What about you?" I raised an eyebrow and knotted his tie slowly. "I only make others crazy." Then I looked up and met his eyes and warned him with a smile. Because I meant it, and I have always thought it was fair to say it. Early President Wang. "Don't love me too much. Loving me too much will lead to heartbreak." And he put his arms around me and pulled me in against his chest and said, "Less is more. The greater the risk, the greater the reward." I did not say anything else. I put my head on his shoulder to rest my eyes and fell asleep in about 90 seconds because I had been sleeping 4 hours a night for a month. He looked down at my face for a long time. He brushed the hair off my cheek and noticed the faint circles under my eyes, and he told me later that this was the moment he took every date he had been planning and put it back in his pocket. He could not bear to make me go and have fun with him on top of my workload. He had met a woman who put work first with the first stirring of affection in his life. So he decided to be a workaholic alongside me, which he did for about 40 years. He lasted about 2 weeks. Then he ran out of patience, invented a reason to collect me from a friend's birthday party, and turned up at the curb in a silver-gray suit he had bought that afternoon for the purpose. He also, I found out much later, spent that same afternoon in a gym asking a coach to design him a program for maintaining a youthful state because I had once told him that 3 years was a generation gap. He was 25 years old. I got in the car and looked at his profile and curled my lips, and he asked me whether he looked like somebody who would hurt me. "See? They should be worried about you." The car went into the garage and stopped. I pinned him down and kissed him and untied the tie he had bought that afternoon specifically for that outcome. He carried me out of the car and into the elevator holding my bag up to shield our faces because I looked, in his words, too captivating like that. His floor has a private elevator and a private entrance. The doors opened and he had me against the wall and was biting my earlobe. And the phone rang. He froze. His arms tightened. He told me afterward that he genuinely wanted to throw my bag into the Pacific Ocean. I pulled the phone out, laughing, and answered. "Xiaoling, when are you coming back?" I was leaning into his chest. I kissed his chin and said, "Madam, I'm out late tonight. I'm tired, so I'll just sleep out and won't be coming back." "You're not coming back? Oh, okay. Den, don't drink too much, and stay safe." "I know, madam. Get some rest. Good night." "Good night." I hung up. And every muscle in that man went soft at once. And he pulled me in and said into my ear, "If you had left me behind today, I might never have wanted to drink red wine again in my life." "Then what are you waiting for?" "I want to give you exactly one image and then close the door. Because some things you don't say out loud." That bottle of red wine had been sitting on his nightstand for 2 months waiting for a woman who kept getting phone calls. At some point in the night we knocked it over. So the answer to the question we had both been carrying around for 2 months is that we did eventually taste it, and that it was more mellow and more alluring than the most precious wine in the world, and that we remembered the flavor for the rest of our lives, and that it was, objectively, a mid-range vintage. At 3 in the morning he finally understood why I'd said he was the one who should be worried. At 7 we had a bid to submit, so I announced it was time to shower and sleep and recharge, and we went and lay down on the enormous bed in the guest room because the master bedroom was a crime scene. I put my head on his shoulder, wrapped an arm around his waist, put my face against his chest, and fell asleep in under a minute because it was substantially more comfortable than sleeping alone. He still wanted to talk to me. He ended up being the only person awake. He kissed my forehead, called me heartless under his breath, closed his eyes, and then ran through the bidding details one more time in his head to make sure there would be no problems with the first project his girlfriend was responsible for, and then went to sleep. We slept the whole night holding each other and woke up refreshed. And I want to note that waking up in somebody's arms is a genuinely excellent way to start a working day. And I had never done it before in 900 years. I pinned the restless man down, put my bare feet on the floor, and turned back and smiled at him. "We have to go bid. If we win, we'll celebrate together tonight." Then I went into the bathroom, and he went to the master bath at speed. And on the way he picked the torn dress up off the carpet, checked the size and called his special assistant to go and buy a professional suit set immediately. And while he was added a matching suit for himself, then he looked at the ruined shirt on the floor, was extremely satisfied with his assistant's taste, and decided to give him a year-end bonus. I had no change of clothes, so he gave me one of his white shirts. Then he watched my legs cross the room in it, regretted the decision instantly, and came back with a bathrobe to wrap me in, because otherwise, in his professional assessment, we were going to be late for the bidding. Breakfast he made himself. He'd studied abroad and learned simple home cooking, and it was not bad at all. And I sat across from him eating breakfast in his bathrobe in an extremely good mood, and he took a sip of milk and said, apparently at random, many people like to move out and live on their own now. It's convenient for commuting and socializing. Darling, have you ever thought about moving out? I looked at him and smiled. Move where? He coughed lightly. ZU Garden is nice. It isn't far from Dongfang Group, and the environment is good. Do you want to go take a look? ZU Garden. I thought about it. Zhao. Is that the one between Dongfang and Zhao Corporation? He said nothing at all. It's very convenient for you to get to work from there. It is indeed a good place. But I'm not moving. I want to be with my mom and dad. He looked down and toyed with his tableware and did not give up. Chairman Zhu and Director Liu have such a good relationship. They should have their own world for two. I picked up my napkin and wiped the corner of my mouth. They do indeed need a world for two. So I've decided to work hard and take over Dongfang Group as soon as possible, so they can retire and travel the world. By then they can enjoy their romantic world for two to their heart's content. Who knows, they might even have a romantic little baby. Before they travel, I want to fully enjoy the warmth of family. And I watched this man's entire strategic outlook rearrange itself over a glass of milk. I wish you success in taking over Dongfang Group soon, he said, and raised the milk, and toasted me, and smiled quite easily. He had grasped the main point, which was that the sooner his girlfriend became a business superwoman, the sooner Chairman Xu and Director Liu would leave the country, and only then would he have any chance of moving into his girlfriend's private space. He decided that morning to adjust Zhao Corporation's strategic direction for the following 3 years to cooperate with Dongfang in all directions, achieving a win-win outcome while creating impressive achievements for his girlfriend. I have to tell you, when I found out about that 4 years later, I laughed for a very long time. That is the single most efficient act of romance I have ever been the target of. He restructured a corporation to get me out of my parents' house. The clothes arrived. The driver took us to the bidding, where we met the subordinates from both sides. You don't need many people for a bid. We went with 6. And when we arrived, Zhang Hao and Zhang Zhang had just arrived too. Zhang Hao saw the Maybach and his expression went out. He had been unable to stop wondering where we had gone and what we had done after getting into that car outside his school gate. Then he watched Wang Jun get out, walk around to the other side, and open the door. He said a bad premonition surfaced. And in the next second, my hand came out and went into Wang Jun's, and I got out of the car smiling at him, and the intimacy and the ease around the two of us went through Zhang Hao like grit in an eye. He understood clearly. Something had happened. In the past, he said, Wei Ling belonged entirely to him. Now Wei Ling was standing beside Wang Jun and his existence was no longer in her eyes. Zhang Sheng's face did something unpleasant and he said, with a fake smile, it seems President Wang and young Miss Wei place great importance on this bid, actually showing up in person. Isn't Chairman Gao the same? That was all Wang Jun gave him. One nod as a greeting, and then he walked into the hall ahead of them, with me. Zhang had come entirely because Zhao Corporation and Dongfang had joined forces against his bid. Of course, he took it seriously. But the Yi family had prepared for that project for a long time, while as far as he knew, Zhao Corporation and Dongfang were acting on a whim. He did not necessarily think he would lose. He glared at his son and snorted. This is all your fault. You even said it wouldn't matter if Wei Ling won the bid since we're all one family. Now look, she's practically becoming a member of the Xiao family. You're more than a hindrance and less than a help. Then he strode into the hall and Zhang Hao followed with no expression at all and watched the organizers exchanging pleasantries with me, treating me as Dongfang Group's representative, a mature bidder, an equal. His hands closed into fists at his sides. That was the moment he said he understood, in his body rather than his mouth, that the Zhou family and the Yi family had actually broken off relations. He blamed himself for being naive. Quait. He had treated the whole thing as a conflict between children and kept pestering me, and forgotten that we had grown up, and that grown people can move their families' businesses. And at that moment he desperately wished to become strong. Strong enough to surpass Wang Jun. Strong enough to stand beside me as an equal. He was 11 months too late and about 1 order of magnitude short, and I am telling you what he wished for because it is the only sympathetic thing in his entire file. Now. The bidding company had received instructions from above and knew there would be a change in policy, which meant this ordinary-looking project would become a super project the moment the announcement landed. Because of that, and to ensure fairness, they gave all bidders temporary notice that the opening, the announcement and the evaluation would all take place on site that same day, and that the results would be issued that afternoon, and that the winner would sign with the tenderer within 3 days. No time for anybody to make phone calls. Beautiful. 6 companies participated. I sat next to Wang Jin while he explained the emergencies I might encounter during a bid, which was my first, and I learned a great deal in 20 minutes. The two of us had our heads together speaking quietly, and from behind, Zhang Hao watched and said his heart felt like it was being bitten by ants. The bidding company had filed with the relevant departments in advance, so everything went smoothly. Auditing, announcing, opening, all completed fast. The evaluation committee began work, and the company representatives went to a nearby restaurant for lunch. And Zhang Xiang sat in that restaurant and finally felt it. Not only had the opening been moved up, the procedure was unusually rigorous. For a project of that importance, that should not have happened. He tried to find somebody from the bidding company to ask a few questions. They were tight-lipped and told him to wait patiently for the results. So, he called the other shareholders and told them that whatever method they used, they must find out if there was anything unusual about this project. An hour later, somebody managed to gather a little news. There might be changes to the project. The profits could double. And Zhang Xiang understood, in a restaurant, over lunch, exactly why Wang Jun had intervened to help the Zhou family take his bid, not to help a girl vent her anger. Because he had known in advance, his heart went down and kept going. He made more calls. He got up and went looking for the people from the bidding company. And it did not matter. Zhang Xiang and every shareholder of Yi Corporation working together, on that afternoon, could do exactly nothing. Because the process had been sealed specifically so that men like him could not reach into it. So he sat there and watched the bidding company hand me the winning notice on the spot. The heads of the other companies came forward to shake my hand and congratulate me without much regret, because they had never expected to win. Only Zhang Xiang knew the inside story, and he held his smile all the way through congratulating me and Wang Jun, and then he strode out without looking back. Detained, and as soon as he was inside his car he slapped his son across the face. That time you put Wei Ling in the hospital, Yi Corporation lost over $1 billion in profits. This time you provoked her into taking our bid, and the choice piece of meat we've been eyeing for years has gone into somebody else's mouth. Yi Corporation has become an enormous laughingstock. Zhang Hao had never thought it would be that serious. He covered his face and asked, indignantly, "Is Yi Corporation so useless against them? Can nothing be salvaged?" Salvaged? Didn't you see how strict it was today? That was specifically to prevent anyone from using private connections. You really are my good son. If you hadn't gone to harass Wei Ling, would she have targeted the Yi family? The Yi family has already had 3 deals taken by the Zhou family. Do you want to bankrupt us before you're satisfied? Zhang Hao lowered his head and mumbled, "I didn't know. Did she really take our business? All you know is eating and drinking and having fun. What do you know? Did you think she was playing house with you?" Even after breaking the engagement there was face left between the families. You had to make an enemy of them. And today at the venue you were still staring at her. What else do you want to do? Stay away from Wei Ling from now on and go back to school and attend classes properly. He had nothing to say, because he had nothing. She said later that the day landed on his head like a hammer. He had never known that breaking up with me would cause a disaster of that size, or led to that many consequences. He had known even less that pursuing me would make me actually target his family. And he told me the sentence that I think is the truest thing he ever said about himself, which was that he had been standing still, doing everything according to who Wei Ling used to be, and only discovered that day that he did not know Wei Ling at all. That night, Zhang Xiang called Zhang Mei into the study for a while, and when she came out she announced she was arranging a blind date. The other party was the Shu family, equivalent in size to the Yi family. A marriage between them would produce a 1 + 1 greater than 2 effect, an alliance, mutual improvement. Zhang Hao opposed it violently, because what he loathed most in the world was a commercial marriage, and because that particular young lady had an overbearing personality and, in his assessment, was ugly. This time his mother did not help him. In Zhang Mei's eyes, marriage and liking somebody were not in conflict at all. How could a child's temperament be allowed to affect a company? The Yi family and Yi Corporation both went under a shadow that week. They officially gave up on making peace with us and reclassified the Zhou family as their greatest threat, and started hunting for allies, and were prepared to sell their son's marriage to get one. And on the other side of the city, the employees of Zhao Corporation and Dongfeng who had worked that project cheered harder than they do at New Year. So, I took all of them to a bar. Wang Jun sat in the middle of the crowd, watching 40 people drink and play drinking games and sing, and then leaned into my ear and said, "This morning when you said we'd celebrate winning the bid together, I thought it would just be the two of us." I swirled my glass and took a sip and leaned into his. "The more people, the merrier. Isn't it fun? Shall we go dance?" That man had been in bars perhaps 6 times, always in a private booth, always for business. He had never sat in the main hall. He had certainly never gone down to the floor. Before he could refuse, I pulled him up, and the whole table started heckling. Bresh. President Wang is going to dance. We want to see young Miss Wei and President Wang dance. Let's get wild, everyone. So I took his arm out onto the floor and started moving with the music and led him through it, and his eyes were entirely on me and he had completely forgotten there were other people in the building. His employees stood there in shock. President Wang hasn't been possessed, has he? Is that really President Wang? Wow, I feel like I've discovered an incredible secret. President Wang and young Miss Wei? No wonder he keeps calling us in for big meetings. Do you remember? During the meetings they even left early together. Look at the way President Wang looks at young Miss Wei. It really is different. Special Assistant Liu, you follow him every day. Do you know anything? Special Assistant Liu pushed up his glasses and smiled. It's not convenient for me to discuss the boss's affairs. That's not right. President Wang and young Miss Wei are both workaholics. If they're really together, won't we be miserable? They huddled together, genuinely unsure whether to be happy or frightened, and watched their boss dance with me, and concluded correctly that they were not far from infinite overtime. Jade changed the track to something faster, and Wang Jun stepped back off the floor to watch, because he was reaching the edge of his repertoire. And I stayed. I want to tell you something honest here, and it is the only place in this story where I will. I love dancing on a floor like that. The volume, the lack of rules, the whole unrestrained thing. It is very close to a specific kind of madness I know extremely well. Because for 2 months I had been learning the rules of that world, and rules mean you keep your hands where people can see them. I had been holding all of it down, every single day, and being very careful and very reasonable and very good. Winning that bid gave me a pleasure I had not felt in a long time. It turns out you can be exactly as decisive and exactly as ruthless in business as anywhere else, and everyone applauds. And on a dance floor I could stop pretending for 4 minutes. The people around me backed off and started whistling and screaming, and I became the brightest thing in that building, and employees from both companies came around to clap and shout, and I let all of it in, and it was very good. When the song ended, I took Wang Jun's arm and walked back, and their intimacy detectors confirmed the hypothesis, and while everybody was looking at us with enormous excitement, I picked up a glass of champagne and said, into a gap in the music, "Today I am very happy. The success of the first step of this project is thanks to everybody's joint effort. Everyone's project bonus is doubled." There was 1 second of silence. Long live the Queen. They shouted it out loud, which is how I learned the nickname they had been using privately, and I have never in 900 years been given a title I liked more, and I got it for handing out money. That bonus was more than their annual salary. Every hour of overtime in 2 months paid for itself twice. They said they'd do another year of it. The music started again, and everybody went back to playing, and I said to Wang Jun, "I'm going to the restroom. We'll leave in a bit and celebrate properly, just the two of us." He finally found a sense of presence, and nodded very slightly, and I think that was the happiest he had been in his entire life to that point. In the restroom I let my hair down in front of the mirror and smoothed it out, because dancing had left it in a state. And a drunk man came in behind me and grinned. "Aren't you the hottie who was dancing? How about it? Want to go have some fun with Big Brother?" He came at me sideways, reaching. I was already moving, and I am going to be honest that in that half second I had made a decision that would have required a lawyer, because in my world a hand like that comes off at the wrist. I did not get the chance. The man hit the wall and made a sound that stopped conversation 2 rooms away. Wang Jun was still holding his arm. When he took his foot back, the arm was out of its socket. He looked at me. "Are you all right?" I shook my head. "I'm fine. Why are you here?" "I wanted to pick you up and leave directly." He called Special Assistant Liu to handle the situation, kicked the man once more when he started swearing, then took my hand and walked me out of the bar. And in the car I looked at him and said, teasing, "President Wang is very handsome." "That posture just now clearly shows you've practiced," he said, with a great deal of meaning. "Then do you want to come back with me and learn some self-defense? You always attract so many suitors. You should learn a few more moves to be safe." I winked at him. "Okay, President Wang, teach me a few moves. I'm a good student. Maybe I can even infer other things from one point and teach President Wang a few moves too." He raised the partition. "I will tell you only that the driver circled the city again, and that nobody asked him to stop, and that by the time we got out, I had learned a complete set of self-defense techniques, and had in turn taught my teacher some new material." My mother's call did not go through that night. She remembered that it was the second time her daughter hadn't come home, and she called my father overseas, and said, worried, "Do you think Xiaoling really took a pretty boy?" The next day at the office she found excuses to walk past my door several times, and observed that I looked radiant, like a rose in extremely good soil. Her head was full of the pretty boy theory. One handsome young man after another went through it, and something always felt wrong. But I looked very happy, at minimum much happier than I had ever looked with Jiang Hao. So she hesitated repeatedly and did not ask. It was, after all, her daughter's private business, and she was old enough to have her own space. So she only complained to my father behind my back, saying that this boy was quite good at making Wei Ling happy, but she did not know what his character was like, and she really did want to find an opportunity to meet him. Reader, she was going to. 2 days after I signed with the tenderer, the government announced the new policy. The project became a super project, national capital and foreign capital both moving in. Profit tripled at minimum. When my mother appointed me project lead, everybody had filed it as the boss's daughter getting experience. Now, they went back through the last 2 months, remembered how seriously I had prepared, and concluded that I had been determined to win from the very beginning, and had. A young miss who had been at the company for a matter of months had produced that as a first victory. She was, they decided, a business genius. People asked my team members about me, and my team members were elites I had personally chosen, so they gave the same answer every time. Wei Ling is a genius. When the project started, she still asked us questions she didn't understand. By the end of the bidding, there was nothing left we could teach her. Her learning speed is abnormal and not comparable to ordinary people. Div. My father came back from abroad and threw a celebration at a club for the senior management and invited Wang Jun as our best collaborator. He raised his glass. This project owes much to President Wang's help and to how much he taught Wei Ling. Without your strong support, she would not have achieved this. I toast President Wang, and I hope we keep cooperating and become the closest of partners. And Wang Jun immediately stood up, bowed slightly, took the glass in both hands, and clinked it against my father's from below. Chairman Zhu is too kind. It is Wei Ling's extremely high business talent and outstanding ability that won this project. I believe that even without my involvement, Wei Ling would have succeeded. She is the best person I have ever met. My father sat down feeling something he could not identify. Everybody at that table was the head of a company. It was a drink. Why did Wang Jun stand up? Why was his posture entirely that of a junior? Could it be, my father thought, that Wang Jun respects me that much? And that a business genius of that caliber praised his daughter without one reservation, which surely meant he genuinely admired her. Reader, my father worked it out eventually. It took him 9 more days in a hotel corridor. Since both big bosses had praised me, nobody else was going to be unobservant, and the table got lively, and everybody found something good to say. I chatted and laughed with all of them, neither arrogant nor humble, and occasionally exchanged a look with Wang Jun that carried an entire private conversation. After a few drinks, my father said, "Satisfied. I'm old now. Seeing my daughter achieve this today makes me genuinely happy. In future, Liu Ji's business and mine will all be handed to Wei Ling. Everyone here is her uncle and her elder. Please help her, guide her, teach her more. I also want her to take over as soon as possible so I can enjoy my retirement. Chairman Xu is still young. Why consider retirement? That's right, Chairman Xu. You and Director Liu are our guiding lights." He waved it off. Working hard is for the young now. But of course we wait until Wei Ling has the ability. We should give young people more opportunities to grow. This time she did very well. I've decided to appoint her as project department manager. What does everyone think? Nobody objected. I had a result on the board, and a result is the only argument that has ever worked in any world I have visited. Wang Jun took the lead in toasting me. Manager Wei's future is limitless. I hope we continue our perfect cooperation. When we clinked glasses, I brushed his fingertips. I still have much to learn from President Wang. I hope President Wang will not hesitate to give me guidance in the future. Everybody drank, and afterward a trace of a smile stayed on his face. He was, in that room, the person happiest about my promotion. Not for career reasons. Once I could take over Dongfang Group, he would no longer have to sleep alone. Special Assistant Wei had booked them long in advance. After everybody got pleasantly drunk, we played for a while longer and went to our rooms at 1 in the morning. Wang Jun took advantage of the fact that nobody was paying attention and slipped into mine. I pinned him against the door and leaned into his chest. "President Wang, are you here to teach me self-defense techniques again?" He untied his tie slowly and leaned in close. "I'm here to discuss bondage techniques with you." I pulled the tie down and wound it around my hand and bit his throat and laughed. "Since President Wang is so eager to learn, I will definitely teach you well. Knock, knock, knock. Xiaoling, drink a cup of hangover tea before you sleep." Every muscle in that man stopped. I blinked at him and whispered, "Do you want to meet my mother?" He looked down at himself. Shirt entirely wrinkled, tie in my hand, hair in a state, lipstick, presumably, somewhere. He shook his head with total conviction, pointed at the bathroom, and hid in it. I fixed my hair and opened the door, smiling. "Madam, I'm not drunk. Give it to Patriarch." She pushed the cup into my hand and started urging, "Drink a little or you'll have a headache tomorrow." And then she stopped, because she had looked at my mouth, and my lipstick was smudged in a way that has precisely one cause. Her eyes went round and she blurted, yelling, "Did you even bring that pretty boy here?" I was, for the first time in that world, genuinely blank. What pretty boy? Inside the bathroom, Wang Jin sobered up instantly and leaned against the door to listen carefully. My mother realized she'd said it out loud, tapped her own mouth, and started reversing. "No? Didn't you say before that you didn't want to fall in love? You even said you liked pretty boys and so on. And I've seen you looking like you're in high spirits lately, and yet you're always busy with work and never go on dates. So I was wondering if you really did keep a pretty boy. Then she pointed past me into the room and whispered, "Is he inside? You came here with so many uncles and elders from the company today. Why did you still bring someone?" I want you to know that I had completely forgotten the pretty boy conversation. 2 months earlier I had won an argument with my mother in a car, and my mother had gone home and quietly conceded the entire war and had been carrying the conclusion around ever since. My brainwashing had worked better than I'd intended. I glanced at the extremely quiet bathroom door and suppressed a laugh. Yes, there is a pretty boy. He's exceptionally handsome, exceptionally charming, exceptionally likable. Oh, well then. All right. My mother was struggling. Her daughter was too frank. She thought for a second, and then kindly added, "Be safe." "I know, madam. Good night, madam." I watched her go, closed the door, and got pulled backward into somebody's arms before the latch had finished. "Pretty boy?" Meth, he bit my ear, in a punishing sort of way. I took a sip of the hangover tea, turned around, fed it to him, and murmured against his mouth, "What's wrong? Are you jealous?" He narrowed his eyes and asked, dangerously, "Who is the pretty boy? Do you have somebody else?" I touched his face and laughed. "So fair, you really are the pretty boy in my heart. You've completely enchanted me." The phrase "in my heart" worked immediately, which tells you everything about that man's actual defenses, and he picked me up by the waist and carried me into the bedroom. The discussion on bondage techniques isn't finished. Manager Wei seems to have quite some experience. "I wonder if you can teach me." "Sure, G. I guarantee you won't be able to break free, no matter how you struggle." "Then you mustn't be too ruthless to me. I still have to meet with the directors tomorrow morning." "President Wang, you've learned to joke, but I like being ruthless the most. If you can't handle it, actually I could also look for other pretty boys. You dare try." He kicked the bedroom door shut, and in the room next door, my parents lay awake worrying about their daughter's pretty boy. Early the next morning, both of them took turns finding excuses to go in and out of their room in order to see who came out of mine. Around 7, a waiter delivered 2 sets of clothes. My mother pretended to glance at them casually from her doorway, then closed her door, most of the way, went back inside, and whispered to my father, "The men's clothing is a suit. The entire set, inside and out, is even more expensive than what you're wearing. It seems Thaling really likes him." My father was suspicious. "What kind of pretty boy wears a suit like that? You haven't made a mistake, have you?" "That's true. But Xiaoling said with her own mouth that he was a pretty boy, and quite handsome and charming, and especially likable. Isn't that what's popular now? A little puppy? What kind of dog?" And my door opened and Wang Jun walked out to say something to me, and both of my parents rushed to their doorway to take a peek, and got what they asked for. "President Wang?" My father opened his door in complete astonishment and came face to face with him. Wang Jun was taken aback for exactly 1 beat, and then regained his composure, and greeted them. "Good morning, patriarch." Aunt and my parents looked at each other, unable to process the transaction. How had the pretty boy become Wang Jun? They looked at me. I linked my arm through his and smiled. "Since we've run into each other, why don't we have breakfast together?" my father said. "Ah, then. Let us change our clothes." He closed the door and asked my mother, "Is this the pretty boy you were talking about?" And my mother, dazed, said, "This could be a little wolf dog?" We all had breakfast together in that club dining room, the 4 of us, and my father spent most of it looking at Wang Jun the way a man looks at a contract he has not finished reading. And Wang Jun, who had negotiated with governments, poured tea for my mother and answered every question in complete sentences and did not once try to be charming, which is how he won. On the way out my mother took my arm and whispered, "He's very serious, isn't he?" "Extremely." "Good," she said. "The other kind gets bored so. Let me close the books on those first 4 months, because I promised you an accounting, and I keep my promises. It is the only administrative habit I have." I arrived in that world in a hospital bed with a poisoned stomach and a face the color of paper, and a young man standing in the doorway telling me that even if I killed myself he would not marry me. 4 months later, the engagement was dissolved, publicly, by my father, on a Tuesday afternoon, in 1 phone call. The woman who had run our household for 10 years was living in a rented room and had lost every friend she had in that villa, and she had done it to herself in 27 minutes. Her daughter had a formal demerit in her permanent file, a semester of suspension, a disciplinary probation, a school that called her a schemer, and a 10 million yuan apartment. She would have been given for free if she had simply left my things alone. Dong Hao's family had lost the Zhou family as a partner forever, lost over $1 billion on the first day of it, lost the single most profitable project of that year to a girl he had told to stop clinging, and become the failure half of a case study that gets taught to business students in the same lecture as my win. His mother would not attend social engagements. His father had stopped speaking to him about anything except money. His fiancée Tubi had walked out of a coffee shop telling him she would respect him as a real man only if he married the nanny's daughter. And I was the project department manager of Dongfang Group, with a supercar, a language, a boyfriend who restructured a corporation to get me out of my parents' house, and 100 students on my payroll who thought I was a queen because I gave them internships for defending me. I said in a car, on my third day in that world, that anyone who tried to make me unhappy would never get to be happy again. Everyone who has heard that sentence from me has assumed it was a threat. It is not. It is a description of my working method. I do not raise my voice, I do not lose my temper, and I do not require anybody's cooperation. To books. There is one entry still open. In the top drawer of my desk on the top floor of Dongfang Group there was a folder. In that folder was the thing my investigator had brought me about the Yi family. I had read it once, put it away, and told nobody except the man who was already helping me take that company apart. Not because I was merciful. Because Lin Yan was not married yet. You cannot make somebody inherit a debt they have not signed for. So I sat on it for weeks, and I let those two find their way to a registry office, and I want you to understand that I could have stopped any of it at any point and chose the timing the way you choose a moment to put a glass down. That folder is the whole second half of this story, and I am going to tell it to you, and you are going to enjoy it. But there is one more thing, and it is the only part of that world I have never been able to file properly. At a banquet, in a corridor, in a black gown with crushed diamonds on it, I put a heel on a man's chest and let some of what I actually am off the leash. For about a second and a half, I forgot the cameras, the law, the witnesses 40 meters away, and the fact that I was a soul in a borrowed body with almost nothing in the tank. And a man came around that corner and saw it. He did not flinch, he did not intervene. He waited until it was over, and offered me his elbow, and made a joke about being worried, and asked whether I was really going to take the bid. He never once asked me what he had seen. I have been alive for 900 years. I have been feared, hunted, worshipped and struck by lightning. Nobody has ever looked directly at the thing under my face and then held a door for it. That night, before I slept, I turned my hand over in the dark and brought out the mirror. 8-sided. Plain. The size of a rice bowl. It came up humming, the way it does. Keep looking, I told it. Somewhere interesting. Take your time, And it trembled in my hand and went quiet. Take your time, 900 years, 3,000 worlds, and I had never